Jerome, where are you? Like, hello, have you seen the stock market? Oh my gosh. Okay, you're going to have to look at the bond yields again because, oh my God, Matterport is now down to, is that margin calling? Oh my God, NEO down 8.5% to $38 now. Really? Really? 38 freaking dollars? This is so oversold. This is so ridiculously oversold. That's it. That's it, boys and girls. It's time to start going shopping because this is getting effing ridiculous. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Man, we got to set some limit orders. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull them up when it comes time to see a bounce. Come on, please cooperate with me today. Weeble, what is this? What is this? Oh, by the way, while I struggle with this Weeble app and try to get these things separated here, make sure to get yourself 2 free stocks with Weeble by going to metkevin.com/Weeble and depositing $100 and getting 2 free stocks worth up to $1,850. Okay, so now back to bagging on the platform. Okay, I think I figured it out. So if we wanted to set, if we wanted to go shopping for NEO, we could do 1,000 shares at, God, this is so effing cheap. We got to go like 1,500 here. Okay, 1,500. Here we go. Okay, so I want to set this a little lower though, because we're gonna set this to watch it right now. So we're gonna set this at like 36. Okay, 36.18. There we go. So that way I can adjust this and I'll be able to like quickly pull this up. Oh my God, Enphase is under 150. What? Why have price targets, folks? It's just gonna go down. Why bother? Why buy it all? It's just gonna keep going down. Never squander red. Okay, where's Tesla? Holy crap! Oh my God. Okay, let's set a limit here too. Let's just may as well just set a limit low because it's not going up. So let's set a 610 tendy maker. We'll call this the tendy maker right here at 610 because there's no way that could go below that, right? Okay, see a little bit of a bounce here on NEO. We'll watch that. Is the broader market gonna bounce? No, Lemonade's still free falling. This is the worst. Okay, EXPI is rebounded. Okay, a couple stocks starting to rebound here. Matterport, dude, this is unreal. Holy crap. This is so stupid cheap right now. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. I am ooh, wow. Oh my God, this is so cheap. So oh my God, it keeps going. Hold on, I'm gonna have to lower that. Hold on. Wait, did that fill? There's no way that filled. No. Wait, go down more. I don't want it to fill yet. There we go. Okay, we'll just leave that right there because I'm waiting for the bounce before I want these things to fill. This is freaking insane. Jerome, get on earlier. Okay, EXPI is having a little bit of a bounce. Tesla, oh my God. Oh wow, I'm gonna have to lower this even more. This is freaking kooky. What the heck? What's NEO doing? NEO 30. Okay, NEO's supporting. Okay. Wow, it looks like somebody's selling their kidneys today. Oh man. Woo! What is it? Oh man. Okay. All right. No. Oh, we are not bouncing here on Tesla. We are continuing to fall. Holy crap. This is nasty. NEO's got to bounce. Okay. So NEO's doing a little bit of a Rico here. Oh, wow. Wow. This is absolute insanity. Oh my God. It declines are continuing. I'm scared to even look away at the bond yield because it's this is a disaster, and the disaster keeps getting worse. It didn't even go up. It's at 1.45. Now the market's just being a little pans. That's what's happening here. The market's just being a little wussy fuss. It's like, oh my gosh, but the market's going down, so I may as well sell. What is this? The Fizz just literally gave up everything. Okay, we got a little bit of a bounce here on some of these stocks. See, eBay. Some of them are starting to bounce. Okay, Tesla. Okay, we got a bounce. Okay, I'm gonna execute on Tesla right now. Okay, so what did I just buy? I have no freaking idea. I'm buying a lot. Okay, hold on. Going on shopping spree. Going to shopping right now. 100 Tesla. Okay, Neo, where are you? Yeah. See, Neo signaled the bounce to us. Let's go. 1500 Neo. Okay. What else? What was another place so we just did Neo, we just did Tesla. Crap. What was the other stock we put a thing on? Oh, GHVI. Yep. We're bouncing. Let's go. I'm going shopping. Oh, is that executing? That's not executing. Uh-oh. Scheisse. It could dip again later in the day, obviously, right? Okay. All right. So we just bought a good chunk. I'm pretty sure I have no money right now. I'm pretty sure right now I'm basically just borrowing money on a credit card, and yeah, I will definitely buy that too. Let's go 300 end phase right now. What's Etsy doing too? Okay, let's just put the limit here at 150. This is so sexy right now. Oh my god, I love it. No! I think I missed that. Wait, did it go through? I don't think that went through. I don't think that hit. No, it didn't. Go. It could dip more later today, but I'm not squandering this. F that. We're going F and shopping. Screw it. I got a pretty fat position, honestly, in this, but this is I have to, man. I have to. It's so 1,000 shares for 22K. Oh, it's so cheap. Let's go 2K shares right here. Let's go. 22, 25. I don't even know what all I just bought. Like 200 and 650. Okay. Wow. I'm pretty sure I'm bankrupt now. So Tesla, yeah. Scheisse. I can't do this. Stop it, Kevin. You're supposed to be on a freaking stock diet. What the hell? Oh my god. Well, Weeble says my risk level is safe. Oh, that's reassuring. Well, in that case, let's go buy some more. I don't know. No, I gotta be patient. Patience. Oh my god. Can't handle it. It's so red. It's so bloody red. But it does say safe. Weeble says I'm safe. So it can't go wrong. If Weeble says I'm good, right? Oh god, the red candles are coming back. Here we go. That's it. You know what? Change the channel. We're not looking at this anywhere. We're done. We just bought. That was the bottom. Here. Listen to her. This is just an ad. Oh man.
Around that, it was really a very sharp moment in time. very strange. I think we kept our focus on our customer and our business and our transformation. And as a result, we found an interesting outcome. We've seen that many investors...
I don't care. Did you know the market is falling apart? The world is ending? Oh, let's look at top news. All right. Top news. What do we got? Yep. Tech drags down stocks as traders await Powell. Why? Who cares? He's going to say the same freaking crap. You think Powell's going to go, well, I told you the day would come. No. Square buys Jay-Z's music service Tidal, appoints him to board. I don't even know what to say right now. I don't even know what to say. Cuomo has entered survival mode. Okay, how about that? It's probably because of the stock market. It's probably has nothing to do with anything else. I'm sure it has nothing to do with allegations at his facilities. Hey, look, girls and boys, Palantir up 0.5%. By the way, if you're a girl, can we just shout out all the ladies in the chat? Can you chat I'm a girl or something to that effect? We gotta show support for the lady traders or investors. This channel has historically been, you know, I mean, gosh, you go back a couple of years, it was like 95% dudes. Lately, it's been the ladies have been here. It's been more like 70-30. So I just don't know. Oh, good, awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Teeter, Blue Steel, Francesca. Awesome. Somebody says they're a cat. Awesome. Gray, super. Oh, this is super cool. We got Twitter. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, there's so much support. Good for all of you. Thank you so much for being here. How cool. Big shout out to all of you. Okay, so, wow, this is insanity, though. This is honestly, this literally reminds me of the craziness of March. You know what? Let me see. I want to see something because this would be really crazy to see. Hold on a sec. Okay, let's go like March like 20th to the 23rd of last year. So let's listen to CNBC just for 1 second. See what's. No, I don't know that I care about Bed Bath & Beyond though. Come on, man, you can bore me. Okay, okay, here we go. She looks like she's freaking out about the market.
Negotiate a new deal with Iran. He's already given up the leverage right.
They're talking about politics again on Fox Business. Like, when are you guys going to actually talk about the market? I don't know. I guess I haven't understood. I haven't understood why they do this. Maybe I'm just trying to like distract from taking a look at the candles here because they're so insane right now. I don't know. It could be. Right now, just so you know what I'm doing, I'm actually scrolling through. Look at this. We have a whole archive of all of the live streams going back through the entire pandemic in the course. And I really want to look at March 23rd, daily live stream begins in 12 minutes. Oh my gosh, we have that. We got to pay attention to the sticks though, so we'll come right back to this. But that could be really funny and maybe give us a little bit of a good feeling in comparison. So Matterport, okay, so we have bounced off the bottom here, okay? We did mother of four right here. Shout out to you. Oh my gosh, it's children or something else. I'm a mom losing my play money. Don't worry. Hodl. Children are tough. So, but this market's pretty tough too right now. Okay, so what's Amazon doing? See, Amazon, our classic relative cash park is pretty flat right now. Okay, so okay, the market is rebounding a bit. No, I mean it's hard to say. It's really hard to say because it's just happening, right? It's happening right now. Let's look at Tesla. Here, they're talking about Kathy Wood over here. Let's see.
Nation's ETF, that fund is down about 20% plus so far this year, and we're just only in March. So this is a bear market when you're 20% down from your recent peaks, and she has to prove to the market and Wall Street right now that she can continue her winning streak. Now, Wood yesterday, she said she's doubling down on her big tech innovation bets. She bought another 2.5 million shares in Palantir, which was rallying, and then also another 305,000 in Teladoc, TDoc, which is now trading, wow, at 192. You know, just a few months ago, we were at close to $300 for TDoc, and she calls banks a value trap. She's still optimistic on Bitcoin and calls Zoom Video undervalued. She recently put in 95 million extra dollars into Zoom Video. But look, I mean, Kathy Wood is probably the biggest name in fund management since, what, Bill Gross or so. But with these star fund managers, you have to continue this winning streak, as you know.
Yes, you do indeed. And she's on a downswing at this moment. How about Amazon? We told everybody earlier that they are bidding big for Thursday night football. That's a good story. And there's another one here. I'm intrigued, Susan, about their cashierless technology. I think that's where you walk into a store, you pick what you want, you walk out, you pay electronically. Where are they doing this now?
Yeah, so they're expanding internationally to the UK, and the first one outside of America.
Let's go back to the sticks here. So let's see what we got here. We're pushing back up. We are pushing back up. Tesla's coming back up. Kind of makes me want to buy some more. Yeah, NIO's coming back up as well. We kind of hit a pretty hardcore bottom there. All right, I'm going to buy a little bit more right now. Okay, let's get a little bit more Tesla. That's fine. Okay, good. So that went through. Okay. Okay. Airbnb. Okay, what else? Etsy, somebody says is low. Let's see. Oh man. We are swiping the credit cards so hard right now. It's potentially very stupid. Or it's potentially brilliant. I'm gonna go with brilliant. It's fine. Everything's fine. Now we have to edit this and put like explosions behind me. Oh dear Lord. Look at Shift. Shift also bouncing off bottoms here. Everything's bouncing off the bottom. Doesn't mean we won't have a new bottom today. But wow. Wow, this was insane. Wow, the intraday swing on NIO. That is crazy. 42 up, straight down. That's cray. Oh man. End phase, Churchill. Okay, everything's kind of bounced off bottom, but we're still like bouncing along there. Oh wow. Geez, I am lowering my cost basis buying this stuff right now. This is crazy. Let's buy a little bit more of GHVI. I'm so out of money, man. What am I doing? I have to. It's so cheap. I must. Stop. It's bad. It's a bad idea. I'm gonna buy right here. So stop buying, please. No, I said 200. How? It says 2,000. What are you doing? Here. I just want to control the line. There we go. Might not matter. Okay. Let's go back to GHVI. Just look at this here on. No, man. I should have just executed it. Okay, I'll just do it. There we go. Oh, did I miss it? Oh, come on. Stop it. Just go through it. See, sometimes this is why market orders, seriously, like people bag on market orders, but a market order right there would have saved me like 30 cents a share. Again, people bag on market orders, but whatever. It's not chasing when you're at the bottom of the market, okay? Stop it. It's the bottom. We're calling it here. Oh, man. Woo! We are bouncing off pretty hardcore there. And it's not the bonds today. It's not bonds. Look at the 10-year. That's not what's moving today. Oops, that was totally the wrong button, but whatever. I hope that's not too loud. Yeah, it's not the bonds today, because they're lower than where they were yesterday. Yeah, Well, those not bonds. It's something. It's just a market crash.
Now, yesterday it took 2 pages, Tokenawan. Run a search, guns, no guns at Capitol Riot, or no guns recovered at Capitol Riot. It will show you articles from back then that say people with guns at the Capitol
guns
Riot.
are everywhere.
Still, today. And I'm sure it'll change once we do this video, like Nevada voter rolls changed overnight. But again, these are the people who are authoritative sources. Why is there no accountability? Think of how scary that is. And think of how scary it is that you have a puppet candidate right now.
Right.
In fact, like the last emperor of Manchuria. Think about, you have a candidate right now who will sign anything that's put in front of them, and you have Democrats who are absolutely gung-ho. They are married to the idea of ensuring that there is more censorship for hate speech and fake news on social media. Just Reuters? CNN?
Yeah.
You guys were wrong. You guys were wrong. Where's the retraction?
And not only that, but right now they're actually saying today, and supposedly, if not today, maybe 2 days from now is when Donald Trump is supposed to be, triumphantly returned to the presidency of the United States.
The conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, exactly. They're saying that this is something that's a legitimate threat, so we have to keep the fences up. We have to keep the barbed wire up. We have to keep this place looking like a militarized zone.
It's a war camp.
And next week, when this stuff doesn't happen, I pray to God nobody's dumb enough to try to do anything stupid on either one of these days.
Yeah, come on.
But after that, they're going to come up with something else. Well, we have to keep it because maybe in June things will come back. I don't really know. We have to keep the National Guard.
Right.
Now. We have to keep the fences and the power that we have.
We're going to put
And
some
these bad
permanent walls
Republicans-
up.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
absolutely.
I carry bear spray.
I do too. I don't think
good
that's a
plan.
weapon.
Yeah.
I think it's just a defense.
Well, it's because he
it's
spends
actually-
a lot of time at Golden Corral.
Yeah, well, no, it's a cologne I wear to attract them.
I
yes.
thought you would need whale spray if you're going to go to corrals.
Yes.
Ode to rucking season. Is it bears or is that just moose?
I think that's just
a moose
deer.
thing.
I have
rucking.
Do you think everybody gets their own cart, their mobility cart at Golden
Right at
Corral?
the door. Here you go.
Hey,
Yeah, just
in a
here's
Joe
yours.
Biden presidency, yes, you can.
Because
Yes.
Bird Scooters is going to make a killing.
Oh, they are.
Hover around.
Hey, look, it says there are 19 available hover carts near the popcorn shrimp.
Is there a more well-built machine than that? I mean, what a sturdy dirty.
Those things are good.
Do I have to download the app?
Let's tip it.
Just mash the phone with your palm. We know that the thumbs don't necessarily set off the haptic touch screen.
Yes, if you want to make a reservation, just hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Also, you're brave and beautiful. Hey, by the way, we're going to, when we do Mug Club after this, it's going to be a fun show. We have some announcements too with Dave Landau, but we'll be doing impressions and improv here behind the scenes where we'll take your suggestions. So you will suggest scenarios for me and Dave Landau, and we'll see what it'll be like. Improv Olympics, only not crappy.
Oh, sweet.
It's like, okay, I see Robert De Niro at a Starbucks. Where's my latte? Right? That's what you're doing.
or-
Yeah, look like him though.
I'd rather swallow a shotgun and be listed as a COVID death.
Or any
Tough.
improv you've ever done at a bar. Like, all right, can I get an object? Dildo. Okay, anything else? Another dildo.
A second dildo.
Something else.
Your
COVID
mom-
swab.
Your mom's dildo.
This is family improv.
Okay, guys. Okay.
See, this is family
Anybody.
improv. That's why we have team jerseys. You're a dildo.
Oh boy.
All right, so let's go. This is something else that's going on right now. Remember that caravan that was charging to the border just in time for Biden's inauguration, which
Yeah.
is not a problem, by the way, for natural-born American citizens or legal immigrants. But let me refresh your memory. This one.
I thought that was the new Jordans coming out.
Hey, I'm talking about my Jordans.
I love Jordans.
Great.
So the lax immigration policies have I've been watching too much Biden policies. They've just begun. The number here, I'm horrible with numbers. This is where I do have to look down. I just have numbers written in front of me. 108 illegal immigrants have been released at the southern border, despite testing COVID positive. So keep in mind, this is what happens, right? You need to wear 2 masks. You need to shut down your businesses because we need to make sure that the pandemic doesn't spread while we release illegal aliens with COVID. We need to make sure that we protect the vote of the people. We need to, this is for the people bill. It's number one. Number one is in the bill because it's our number one priority. And by the way, we're not going to ask for any voter identification, and we're going to do mass mail-in voting, which can go to said tested positive illegal immigrants because they don't have a social security number.
Why
but
not?
we're doing doing it for you. You shut down your business, your vote gets canceled out because we love you. It has nothing to do with needing a new voting base.
Too many illegal immigrants were getting picked up and wanting that 2-week vacation in quarantine, though.
Right, yeah.
I think that's why they're doing
These
a catch and release.
they are child holding facilities.
Ah.
It's a gymboree with a few ice agents.
Pillow fights, ghost stories.
And this is something that's deeply disturbing.
Ghost stories about your dad that just got shot by a border patrol.
Jeez.
Which movie was Joseph with? Yeah, I'm losing my mind. With which actor? Okay, we'll find out. Nobody's got. Was it Far and Away? It could have been Far and Away. It could have been Far and Away. Was it? I don't. Far and Away. Far and Away. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. That was it. That was for sure it. That's that. Good one. Good one. That's a shout out. Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. Jasmine nailed it. Tail nailed it. Not the Wolf of Wall Street. Oh dear. Okay. So okay. What else is going on? All right. All stocks. If you only had $1,000 to invest, what would you do? Honestly, I'd be looking at real estate with as little money as and try to get to like 5 to 10K, maybe get down payment assistance, and I'd be looking at real estate. So even if you double your money on stocks, it's still with $1,000. I mean, unless you have a bunch of money in stocks already, you just have an extra $1,000. I mean, you just saw me buy like 7 stocks. I'm not saying that those are necessarily a good idea, but I mean, that's pretty much what my answer would align to. Yeah. That's what I do. Oh my God, 68 at Redfin? Let's see what Pins is doing. Oh, Pins. Dang it. I missed under 70. Come on. Etsy. Yeah, we spent too much time buying the other ones. You know what? I'll still buy a little bit of Pins right now. Stop buying. Uh-oh. That's it. I'm getting shut down. I can't buy anymore. It's over. It's over. No more money. I'm out. 500. No. 700 shares. Yeah. Oh yeah. Give me some of that cheap stock. 700. Okay. All right. I'm done. I can't handle. I'm not buying lemonade at 100. Like I know under 100 is like potentially nibble potential, but to me it still ticks in at an $80 stock. That's not my future target for the company. The future target is higher than that. Yeah. So cool. Okay. All right. So we're really running away now from these bottoms. So wow, lemonade went to 92. I mean, there was some serious pain there. Lots of egg. Lots of stuff. Okay. All right. Let's try the CNBC. Oh my gosh, there's blood everywhere. What do we say? You buy when there's blood in the streets, folks. People are bleeding now. Like, bring in the EMTs, bring in the National Guard, because we's getting screwed. Now they're talking about NFTs. Seriously, if you were watching CNBC or Fox Business, you would have literally missed this insane dip. That's crazy. Yeah, we're gonna need another stimulus check after this one, no doubt. I'm gonna be getting a stimulus check after this one. After this,
has no interest in raising rates. However, some of the data coming in seem to indicate that inflation might be moving a little bit more aggressively than the Fed had thought. So that raised the
wrong.
Has the Fed lost control of the yield curve? Is the Fed somehow indifferent to what's going on? So, and the important thing for the viewers there, Bob, is it doesn't matter whether they lost control or not. If the market believes they lost control, that's just as dangerous.
And the market's wrong.
What he's got to try and do today is state that, yes, we're aware that some inflationary aspects look stronger than they had. Probably he should cite things like the prices paid yesterday, the highest in a number of years. Say, yes, we're aware of that. That's still within our picture. We know where these things are going on. And then maybe even get into discussing Operation Twist, which would say that the Fed realizes that the yield curve is a little bit out of shape and that it is going to change its operation in the maturity date of what it buys to try and get that yield curve in better shape. I think that will reassure the market. I don't think you can definitely have a...
In other words, shift to buying more longer-term bonds. When they buy more longer-term bonds, basically, it's a complicated explanation. We're not going to go through it right now. Basically, they're trying to tell the bond market, settle down, shit the F down, and calm down. It's all okay. The Fed is here printing money. Okay. There. How's that for an explanation? All right, so 1.46 on the 10-year. I mean, it honestly, it doesn't look so bad today. What's causing this? I don't know. We can look at the 5-year. The stock market actually looks at the 5-year a little bit more than the 10 and the 2, though those tend to be more popular. How do I do this? 5-year. There we go. Okay. 5-year. Line chart. Let's go. What do we got? S&P went green. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so yeah, I mean, still down from yesterday. What's the volatility index doing? Line chart. Happy Friday, and it's a Thursday. Okay. Should we go to day? Let's see here. How high did it go? Oh, wow. We had a massive spike here in the volatility index. All right. That's when you know it's time to buy. That's when you hit peak fear. All right. Coming off those bottoms hot. That's good. Oh, man. Woo! Woo! The Fed is coming back. Absolutely. Okay. Bitcoin will never replace the US dollar. I do not believe that. I do believe that stable coins will replace the US dollar and we'll have a digital coin, like a Fed coin. But you do not take away the money printer from the people with the power to keep the money printer. Okay, so Bitcoin actually sold off a bit during that crisis too. That was intense. That was a really rough day. How does the VIX get data? Yeah, I mean, you could Google how the VIX does that. Is probably going to be a much better explanation than I could give you right now. And I'm still wanting to jump around here and look for little opportunities. So Amazon actually, nice ladder up. Very nice. Boeing, Micro. Okay, nice ladder up on Microsoft here. Our cash plays are laddering. Okay. I'm not funding it with a credit card. I have a margin line on this. What is it? Here. My Weeble says... Oh, God, it's horrible. It says I have a market value of about 5 mil with a cash balance of negative $1.6 million. Oopsies! Don't mind that. Purple has actually recovered after its sell-off this morning. And, yeah, Givo actually also somewhat recovering here. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Clever. Wow, Clever, $12. I mean, that's almost one to add to. Jeez, man. What do we add here? EXPI. Oh, wow. We are getting kind of low on this. It's crazy. The thing I sent you. $49 is the low it hit. $50. Wow. I mean, just the evaporation that's been happening here. It's crazy. CCIV went positive. CCIV. Oh my God. Wow. Wow, wow, wee, wah. Oh, yeah. It is a recovery in Churchill. Winston Churchill. I don't know. This is stupid. I have nothing to say. If I sound crazy, it's because, well, I am. But yeah. Wow. Holy smokes. Look at that toilet we just came out of. We just came out of a nasty toilet. And we did some fat frickin' buying. Nobody tell me not to buy the effing dip. Because I don't want to hear it. I'm going to buy the dip. Even if it means I don't buy a stock for the next 6 months, I'm buying the crap out of these dips. And I'm glad we did. That was a lot of buying we did there. What, like 15 minutes ago? It's pretty, it got a little frantic there for a moment. Yeah. Wow. Wow, this is a solid bounce. Wow. That is this is a very, very good bounce on the day here. Very, very good. Let's look at Tesla. Oh, so good. Such a nice ladder up. Wow. Yeah, that happens fast. No kidding. Look at that. That dip is evaporating before. Dude, that should go down as some, and I'm not going to because those are not day trade plays. But if I sold out right now of the trades that we just made 10 minutes ago, probably be up like 50 grand on the day trade account. That's crazy. That was some really good timing there. Ha! Yeah. Well, we did a very nice job right now. We did it very nicely. We did not panic at all. There was at no point in this video did Kevin lose his mind. Everything is under control. Everything is going according to plan. Giddy up, horsey.
Quarter to end 2020. Guidance a little bit weak here, but look, it looks like we have recovered because we were much lower earlier on, and Okta.
Yeah, and you weren't covering it. You guys weren't covering it. You were talking about Biden, and you missed the dip.
Rival off though, but $6.5 billion might be a little much considering it represents about a fifth of Okta's market cap. Stu? You okay?
All right. Yeah, I've calmed down. Don't worry, I've calmed down. But I would like to make the point that Montclair, New Jersey, probably voted at least 60 or 70% for Joe Biden. But I'm digressing again. Let's talk about that the SpaceX Starship, which exploded. There's the video again.
Yeah, there's some fire for you.
Well, at least it landed. Wait a minute. It landed, didn't it?
Yes.
It was very impressive land, honestly. I watched that live with the kids yesterday, and the thing lands, and we're staring at it for like 2 minutes, and Jack is like, Dad, you said it was going to explode. Where's the explosion? I'm like, no explosion, son. This is history. It's pretty bad. Yeah. No, it's honestly, it's so incredible that thing can go up 10 kilometers in the sky and come land on the same spot. It's really, really incredible. I mean, it really was historical yesterday. Yeah. All right, so we are still trending up here on. Yeah. Is this us after our trades here in the course member Discord? Oh man, woo! What a dip buy. That's insane. Oh man. Oof. I need like, I should have a paper bag here. Oh my gosh. Etsy barely went under 200. Honestly, Etsy, it didn't actually stretch so far under my numbers to where I don't mind that I didn't pick up on more Etsy. It wasn't as juicy as some of the other crap that we saw happen today. Like Matterport going into 12s. Dude, that was free freaking money. It was free money. Yes, Trap House, you are correct. It is weird if they don't explode. I totally agree. I know the media likes to look at that and go, ha ha ha, Elon exploded again. Whatever. No, it's actually a great thing. for all of their. I mean, because Elon says they want to push everything to the max, like have everything be like at critical, highest stress points, so they can fix those failures, and then when they actually go on missions, they don't have to run everything at like mission critical or those critical loads anymore. Wow, our first red candlestick is forming. Oh God! Uh oh! I see red again. Palantir also showing a little bit of red. Amazon trending up nicely though. Good consistent uptrend at Amazon. Very, very good. We got Ebix. We got Apple. Apple, nice uptrend here. No red candle. Boeing. You want me to look at Boeing? When I type in BA, I always think of Bank of America. Like, I feel like they should have had that symbol. What's Bank of America? Is it BOFA? No, it's not. Bank of America. What is that? Oh, BAC. Bank of America Corporation. Like, that's lame. Should have been BA. Whoa, Churchill, red candle sticking. Red candle. Tesla, not really. Don't know if that Churchill move there is a sign of just like people maybe taking some swing profit here or what. We got a little bit of a move here on pins, which we just bought. Although we did buy a little bit. Actually, I did have a little bit before that. Enphase we bought as well. And my Webull account is upside down on Enphase, that's for sure. Webull has my highest paid positions because all my Chase positions are lower, but I haven't bought anything on Chase in like 3 months, so of course. Okay, getting a little bit of a red candle here again. It does look like, can't see, there we go. Matterport holding. Rocket, little bit of a red there on the rebound. Etsy, little bit of a red here at the end. So we just, okay, it's not unnormal or abnormal to have some red. What we want to see is where that new support might be coming in. Neo nicely continuing its stare up. We've got Tesla, you know, a little bit of red, but this is pretty nominal compared to the velocity at which we were seeing pain earlier. So I don't think we're gonna see a much lower low here. Churchill just went positive again. So we're really dancing on the line here. Let's go back to the VIX for a moment. Although the VIX is delayed. You have to be really careful with the VIX. I don't know why, but the VIX is just delayed. It's 15 minutes late. This should be going up right now a little bit based on the red candlesticks that we're seeing. But this is giving us pricing from 15 minutes ago. Worthless. Genius. Wow, here's your day trade for today. Look at that. I mean, we did the big fat dip buys, but there you go. That's the mover today. Everything else is a joke. Snowflake up a couple percent, but that's nothing compared to what it just sold off. I mean, I guess that could be said about all of tech, honestly. Bitcoin, Walmart, AT&T, Salesforce, Apple. Apple 122. Ebix. What else here? Purple. Purple, big miss there on earnings. We should really look into Purple, but I want to pay attention to this softening that we're getting in the candlesticks here for a moment. So we're softening on those gains, and we're kind of trading a little bit right now. Canoe at 12, that's pretty dang dirt cheap too. But I did prefer Matterport at 12. Definitely lowered the cost basis on that one. Let's see here. Fisker actually recovering a bit as well. Look at that V-shaped crash here. Crazy. Okay, Fisker's coming back down. We're getting the red candles again at Fisker. We'll see where support ends up landing here. Let's see if Neo's doing that too. Is Neo tracing that? Not really. Neo's holding. Yeah, Benny freaking nails it with the meme today. Look at this. There you go. I bet he's thinking about other women. I wish I had more money to buy the dip. Good one. Good one. Is up to the minute? Oh, thank you. Thank you. UVXY. UVXY. Oh. Okay. Are you sure? Maybe. I mean, I know it says there's only a 1 minute delay on this, but let me see here. VIX. Yeah, yeah, you could be right. Yeah, because we're at the uptrend right now. So, okay, what was it again? UVXY. That's a good one. That's very good. Thank you. Let's see if Bloomberg shows that. UVXI. I actually think Bloomberg is a little bit delayed though. Yeah, they are. Because I don't pay for enough freaking, like, I guess $25,000 a year is not enough to get current pricing. I get 15-minute delay. If I want current pricing, I gotta pay more money. Profiteers. All right. That's right. Kevin is with you, so don't worry. Oh man, your boy Kevin just lost lots of money. Oh, but that's okay. I am with you. Here we go. Come on, push it. Find the dip. Find the dip. Soundboard is great. I need more suggestions. What else should we put on the soundboard? We need to get Elon. Do we have a clip of Elon going price too high? That'd be great. Oh, that's what we would need. ACIC? What's ACIC doing? Atlas? The Evital? Oh my god. It's at 10, basically. Oh, wow. That's basically... Oh my god. Look at this SPAC get smacked. OMG. Look at this. Like, when this SPAC got announced, it was right here. It went from announcement at 11:30 to, like, 14, like, instantly. And, look at this, folks. It's below where they made the announcement. That's so crazy. Stock market. I haven't. Check out Boeing. Oh yeah. I was gonna look at Boeing, but I didn't. Cuomo has not apologized. Why, Fox News? Why? Seriously, Fox News? Why? Why are we talking about Cuomo? What is this channel? Varney, I want to know. What is this channel right here? Hold on, wait for it. Right here. What is this? This looks like Fox News to me. Right here. Fox News. Talking about Biden and China. Why on Fox Business are we talking about Cuomo? I don't get it. Am I like, is that really business related? I don't get it. Ay.
This is the time.
What's the time? Tell me.
You're asking me hard questions right now. That's confusing.
Yeah. That's lawyers. Need those lawyers.
John, we can't wait for Heights.
This is boring. Boring. Okay, what's going on with Boeing? Let's see what's going on with the sticks, because there's still some opportunities out here. Let's find them. All right. So Boeing. Zooming out a little bit on Boeing. Wow, Boeing went to 191. But this is this is the day. This is the day chart. So 89 was back in March. So where are we right now? So right now, okay, Boeing's still falling. Yeah, Boeing's just not one that I hit right now. Let's see, Palantir, you say? Palantir is jiggering around here, up and down, you know, kind of jiggy-jaggy, because they're all scared of Cuomo. Okay, no opinion. What's SKT? SKT's Tanger Factory. What is that? Is that like the outlet malls? No, I have no idea. That's probably totally wrong. I haven't been to an outlet mall in a very long time. Outlet malls are great for getting discounts on things you like, though. So I guess if I had to pick an outlet mall, best outlet mall I know about is Kevin Stocks and Psychology of Money Group, where you could get a really sick deal using coupon code HODL to get 38% off lifetime access to the frickin' epic Stocks and Psychology of Money program get all my alerts, private live streams, which will be live in like 15 minutes over there. And yeah. These are the days you gotta join. You want to adopt the psychology of why I just went so freaking heavy at the bottom of that V. You want to adopt that psychology. You want to invest, what is it, like $400 or whatever it is, and change your life. Go to that program, link down below. It really takes you from 0 up. Like, you could have negative knowledge about finance, and I'll break you. I'll break you like a wild horse. So bad. Why did I get a soundboard? It's so bad. Okay. All right. Settle down, Kevin. Settle down. What's going on with our EV stocks? It is the outlet mall. Oh, I was right about that. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. The Tanger factory outlets. Okay. Yeah. That's it. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Because I think they have one of those right outside of Park City. Right outside the, no, isn't it in like Haber or something like that? Somebody knows. It's somewhere in Utah. Well, obviously there's going to be someone is in Utah somewhere. It's outside of Park City by like 30 minutes. The Tanger Outlet Mall. That's what, okay, so I was right. I just wasn't sure if it was Tanger. For some reason I was thinking of, maybe I was watching too much Born Identity and I was thinking about Tangiers. That could be, even though that literally has nothing to do with this. Anyway, look at the support we found here on NEO. So NEO just bounced off, what do we just bounce off here? This is good, because we had some red candlesticks showing up again. And I said it, we're not going to fall as low as before. We don't have that velocity right now. The velocity of that crash, folks, is what made it. That's why it went nuts. Let's see here. Okay. So, whew, wow. This was like, I feel like I just ran like a 10K or something like that. And yeah, wow. Whew. Whew. Oh, this was a crazy day. I have to say, that was insane. This live stream will go down in infamy. Okay, so Neo's got this new support level here at $40, which is insane. Enphase found support intraday at about 155. Shift is much more volatile, so it's hard to draw support over here. I mean, one stock purchase can move that. Let's go to Tesla. Okay, yeah, Tesla found support as well. So Tesla found support at, yeah, I'd say somewhere around this, like 144. Somewhere around here is okay. It doesn't have to be the bottom of the stick. Apple, see, everything had that little bounce there, 122. Yep. That makes sense. See, this is when we had these candlesticks here. This is when we knew it was just way over freaking sold. Of course, I was losing my mind buying stuff. Okay. What else? What's still down? Where's another opportunity? Somebody tell me something that hasn't recovered yet. I do not own REITs. No freaking way. No REITs for Kevin. Okay. Oh, did Buzz go public today? Buzz Sentiment ETF. Oh, see, it followed that. Oh my god. Look at that. Look at those candlesticks at the open. Holy crap. That looks so cool. Wait, I have to zoom out of this. Oh my god, that is so cool. Does it like just go from 0? Is that how that works? Oh, it is. Oh, that's so cool. Look at that. You literally see the candlestick go from 0 to where its, you know, net asset value is. And then obviously I'm sure there's some kind of premium on this. But it obviously tracked this dip. Wow, what a V-shaped recovery right there. That's cray-cray. The Buzz. Ooh. Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. Let's understand this Jay-Z thing.
What they are yet, Carl. Yeah, I mean, I would add, Dee, and to John, that Jack has always considered himself a bit of a media player, John. He says in his thread today there's a compelling tie-up between the music industry and the economy. I also think it's interesting, some have pointed out, Jay-Z has been a seller here of Tidal shares and even some champagne interest. So what does it say that Jay-Z sees as a decent time to be selling in this environment?
Yeah, he got Jack Dorsey to trim his beard very nicely, too, for the photo, I will note. So people should check that out on Twitter. But let's move on. More serious earnings news here. Snowflake shares rising this morning after report.
Yeah, we talked about Snowflake yesterday, broski. Talk about the dip opportunities today. When we get a mainstream media channel actually talking about buying the dip, I might go bankrupt. But I think I might be insulated. Look at NVIDIA. Oh, wow. This is back at like August pricing. Wow. That's a nice dip on NVIDIA right here. That is juicy. Ooh. 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 Oh. That's a pretty good dip. I'm going to watch NVIDIA a little closer. I'm a little burned out right now because we bought so freaking much in this dip on video. So there's no clickbait. It actually happened. Like, it's so funny. I get these Trade Desk. That's a really good company. I get these comments. Like, I'll do a video like, oh, I just bought, X shares. And people are like, yeah, right. You're full of crap. You didn't buy anything. Just fake news. It's like, all right. Guess you haven't been to a live stream yet. Whew. Trade Desk is great. I wonder how they've just been. Where are they trading? So we're really actually going back to election lows, but I mean this company has just been to the moon. I mean it's such a, oh my gosh, it's the advertising dollars. I do wonder though how Trade Desk is going to act relative to what's it called? The Facebook update. Wish? What is this? Wish Pond? Wow, this is super. Wait, no, that's actually decent volume, but the sticks are. Oh, sorry, I'm on the day. Whoa, there's like no volume on this. That's such a weird looking chart. Tesla. Let's go back to the minute here. Yeah, we are consistently trending up here, heading over to Jerome Powell. Oh, CCIV. We haven't looked at CCIV for a moment. It's been a hot minute. Wow. Churchill got so cheap. So glad we bought it. Wow. Okay. What do we got here? We're at 24-ish. This looks like a support around here, 24. I agree. Okay. Let's go check on our others. I can't believe ACIC. I mean, I'm not buying this thing, but ACIC is so close to its $10. That's very, very cheap. That's kooky. Wow. I mean, it's you're paying a 7% premium over the pipe, which is amazing. But I don't want to be in that one. So yeah, no thank you, but no thank you. All right. Let's quickly look at the top news here. Top news. So I can't look at so many symbols today, but I do. Yeah, let me look really quick. FRX. Let's see how cheap they got. No, not FEX. FRX. Forest Road. Here we go. Oh, whoa! Oh my God, 1086. No, dude, that is dirt cheap for this company. Oh my God, I'm buying this. That is so cheap. That is so cheap. Oh my God, this is so stupid. What am I doing? 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 Oh my God. I did it. I did it. Oh God. Okay. Okay. I'm hanging my head in shame. It's too much. I can't handle it. I just can't handle it today. Guys, I will be live in the private course member live stream in 7 minutes. I gotta go make a cup of coffee. FRX. Dirt sheet. Okay. Wow. 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 Do not call my face red, okay? Do not make fun of me. Stop it. I don't want to be made fun of. I do not endorse this. Ugh. Why? Oh, man. Oh, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. Okay. I can't do it anymore. Use the coupon code HODL. It'll teach you not to be a paper-handed sissy. And I'll see you there shortly. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Yahoo Finance Live for this special exclusive coverage of the Daily Journal's annual meeting of shareholders. I'm Julia LaRoche coming to you from Miami, Florida. I'm now going to send things over to Los Angeles where we have the Daily Journal's CEO, Jerry Salzman, and Charlie Munger, chairman of the board, for some opening remarks before the shareholder questioning begins. Charlie, the floor is yours.
As usual, we'll go through this formal agenda very rapidly, and then we'll stay here and answer questions for a very long time. The questions have all been submitted by actual shareholders of the Daily Journal, and Yahoo's just delivering them to us. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, via Yahoo Finance's website, the meeting will come to order. I'm Charlie Munger, Chairman, and to my right is Jerry Salzman, CEO. What's all this list of directors for?
Just to let people know who the directors are, Charlie.
Oh, the directors are Jerry Salzman, Peter Kaufman, Mary Conlon, and Gary Wilcox, who's retiring now, and myself. Ellen Ireland will be Inspector of Elections. We will now propose to make the formal business of the meeting. On December 18th, 2020, the record date, there were 1,380,746 shares of common stock of the company outstanding. The total number of shares represented by proxies at this meeting are 995,682, which are more than enough to constitute a quorum, making the meeting duly held. The first order of business is to re-elect the 4 directors. And the votes are as follows. Charles Munger, 679,481. Gerald Salzman, 660,287. Peter Kaufman, 593,336. Mary Conlon, 651,450, 493. Because we have the proxies, those directors are now reelected. The second proposal is to ratify the appointment of our certified public accountant. Baker Tilly US LLP. And the votes in favor of that are 995, 356, and against 120. That's interesting. Who in the hell is voting against the accountants? But the accountants are duly elected. And we will now proceed to the question period. Go ahead.
Thank you, Charlie. Our first question comes from Michael Wong. Michael Wong asks, in this year's annual letter, you mentioned the share price increase was driven by speculative frenzy and forced index buying. I would imagine that applies to the broad market too. What are the psychological implications of this type of market behavior? What could investors do to cope better with periodical frenziness?
Well, these things do happen in a market economy. You get crazy booms. Remember the dot-com boom, when every little building in Silicon Valley rented at a huge price, and a few months later, they were about a third of them were vacant. There are these periods in capitalism, and I've been around for a long time, and my policy has always been to just ride them out. And I think that's what shareholders do. In fact, what shareholders actually do is a lot of them crowd in to buying stocks on frenzy, frequently on credit, because they see that they're going up. And of course, that's a very dangerous way to invest. I think that shareholders should be more sensible and not crowd into stocks and just buy them just because they're going up and they like to gamble. And of course, Kipling once wrote a famous poem called "The Women," and the concluding line was to the effect that you should learn about women from him instead of yourself. But he says, I know you won't follow my advice. Go ahead, next question.
Thanks, Charlie. Our second question, we have a couple of shareholders who are asking about this latest retail frenzy. So we have Gavin Smith who asks, what are Mr. Munger's thoughts on the recent GameStop short squeeze by social media and the resulting implications on short selling in the future? And another shareholder named Lee asked, Dear Mr. Munger, please share your thoughts on the recent Wall Street Bets GameStop short squeeze. It seems to involve a lot of your standard causes of human misjudgment.
Well, it certainly does, and that's the kind of thing that can happen when you get a whole lot of people who are using liquid stock markets to gamble the way they would in betting on racehorses. And that's what we have going in the stock market. And the frenzy is fed by people who are getting commissions and other revenues out of this new bunch of gamblers. And of course, when things get extreme, you have things like that short squeeze. It's not generally noticed by the public, but clearinghouses clear all these trades. And when things get as crazy as they were in the event you're talking about, there are threats of clearinghouse failure. So it gets very dangerous. And it's really stupid to have a culture which encourages as much gambling in stocks by people who have the mindset of racetrack bettors. And of course it's going to create trouble, as it did. And I have a very simple idea on this subject. I think you should try and make your money in this world by selling other people things that are good for them. And if you're selling them gambling services where you rake profits off the top, like many of these new brokers who specialize in luring the gamblers in, I think it's a dirty way to make money, and I think that we're crazy to allow it. Next.
Our next question comes from Andrew Wilkinson. He would like to know, what do you hope the future of the Daily Journal Corporation looks like in a decade?
Well, I certainly hope that they succeed mightily in their software endeavor to automate all these courts for the modern world. And I think that could happen, but of course that's not a sure thing. I hope the newspaper survives too, and that's not a sure thing either.
Dear Mr. Munger and Mr. Salzman, this question comes from Matthew Peterson, I should mention. He writes, the highly configurable JTI product may help eSuites integrate deeply into new jurisdictions as agencies and citizens become familiar with the courthouse software. Today, the majority of contractual revenue that can be identified is from implementations and licenses. What are the main sources of ancillary revenue expected once the products have gone live, and how meaningful will the products like eFile-It, ePay-It, cloud hosting services, and others become?
Well, we don't really know where it's all going. We do know one thing, and that is the courts of the whole world are going to be taken into the modern age. And as Jerry just said to me at just after breakfast, he wouldn't want to invest in a parking lot by a courthouse for the future because an awful lot of the court proceedings are going to go to the internet. And this is a highly desirable thing. And if you go to a little country like Estonia, the whole damn country is on the internet, and it's a very good idea. So I think you can count on the fact that what we're doing is going to be it's in a big growing field. That's the good news. The bad news is it's not clear who's going to win all the business or how much money is going to be made. Generally speaking, people assume that we're a normal software company like Microsoft or something. We are, in fact, in a more difficult type of the software business than Microsoft. When you respond to software by the RFP process, it's a very difficult, demanding business, and it's less profitable and less sure than what Microsoft does. But we love it anyway. It's doing a big public service. Go ahead.
All right. Our next question, we had a couple questions about JP Rick Guerin. We have Tom Seymour and Thomas Chang, both asking if you all would share a few stories about him and your fondest memory.
Well, of course, he was one of my closest friends for many decades, and he was very good company and a splendid gentleman, and of course, we accomplished quite a bit working together. Rick was part of the group which consisted of Warren Buffett, Rick Garrett, and Charlie Munger that bought control of blue chip stamps when it was widely distributed in an antitrust settlement. And we were together in that for a long, long time. And then Rick and I did the Daily Journal together at another occasion. And Rick was always humorous, always intelligent. I tell a story on Rick that he took the Navy's IQ test, and he got one of the highest scores ever recorded and left early. And that doesn't happen. That's the reason he rose so fast in life. He was just so damn smart. And of course, he was fun to be with because he was always jumping out of airplanes and parachutes and running marathons and so on, doing all kinds of things I would never consider doing. And he was a lot of fun. And he was a great kidder. He loved to kid people. And of course, he was very courageous and generous in helping everybody around him all his life. we miss Rick terribly. But he was 90 years of age. He had a long and wonderful run. And of course, when you're as old as I am, when these people go, there's no replacing them. Jerry, can you ever remember Rick down? He was always upbeat.
Always upbeat, yes. And interested and up to speed, and didn't have to take a lot of time to get background information to make his comments. Always on point.
Well, it helps to be able to leave the IQ test early with the highest score.
Our next shareholder question is from Adam Smith from Muncie, Indiana. He asked, now that we are cash flow positive, assuming the software business is investing organically as much as it can, what is the philosophical thinking with respect to capital allocation at the Daily Journal? Are traditional dividends and share repurchases the likely end state, assuming our software business grows into a bona fide company? Or will buying and holding securities from time to time be what the board is comfortable with? Everyone knows this isn't a small cap Berkshire Hathaway, just trying to get a feel for what the long-term capital allocation is.
Well, the business around here that has the most promise is our software business, automating the courts. And we're going to play that as hard as we can. And we hope to do well in it. And our marketable securities are we prefer owning common stocks to holding cash under current conditions. And it's kind of an accident that we have so much in marketable securities.
We had a couple of questions around succession planning. We have one from Ryan Fusaro from New York City. Charlie, he writes, in recent years, Berkshire Hathaway has provided much greater insight into the company's succession thoughts and has made available at the annual meeting the company's leading managers that will steer Berkshire's future. These actions have given some shareholders more visibility and comfort on their investment. Can you provide similar insight regarding the future at the Daily Journal? And would you consider implementing policies like those at Berkshire so shareholders can get to know the up-and-coming leaders in the organization?
Well, the people doing the computer software are doing magnificently well. The people under Jerry, Mary Jo and Danny. And we hope they'll continue doing magnificently well. But of course, it's a very difficult field, and there's a lot of competition, and we're a very small company compared to our main competitor. And so we can't promise we're going to succeed. All we can promise is we're going to try. And so far as I can tell, we're doing pretty well. Jerry, don't you think we're doing pretty well?
I think so, Charlie.
Yeah. I would go further. I don't think Jerry's surprised that the people doing the work, Mary Jo and Danny, are doing well. But I'm flabbergasted at how well they're doing.
Charlie refers to the course many times. The JTI software has been configured for other judicial and justice agencies, including district attorneys, prosecutors, public defenders, probation, etc. So we have one basic system configured a number of different ways, including workers' comp for a large state in the United States.
Well, it's a huge field in which we have a very interesting toehold with the strongest toeholds in Australia and California. But we can't promise what the outcome will be, but we're trying pretty hard, and we get some favorable impressions of progress. The one thing I can promise is that I won't contribute much to it because I don't understand it.
Our next shareholder question comes from Simon Jacobs. He writes, many observers see market behavior that reminds them of the dot-com bubble, wild speculation, endless SPACs and IPOs soaring on their first day of trading. Do you agree that there is a close parallel to the late 90s and this is therefore, quote, must end badly?
Yes, I think it must end badly, but I don't know when.
You know, another shareholder, Bill Roberts, asked about SPACs, and he points out it seems like everyone, including actors, athletes, singers, and politicians, are getting into the business of promoting their own SPAC. Why do you think all these SPACs and the promoter, what do you think of all of the SPACs and the promoters pushing them?
Well, I don't participate at all, and I think the world would be better off without them. I think this kind of crazy speculation in enterprises not even found or picked out yet is a sign of an irritating bubble. It's just that the investment banking profession will sell shit as long as shit can be sold.
Richard Lewis from Culver City, California, he asks, Charlie, last February, you spoke about the wretched excess in the financial system. Given the developments over the past year, could you give us an update on your assessment of wretched excess in the system? Where does it appear most egregious?
Well, it's most egregious in the momentum trading by novice investors lured in by new types of brokerage operation like Robinhood. And I think all of this activity is regrettable. I think civilization would do better without it. You'll remember that when the first big bubble came, which was the South Sea bubble in England back in the 1700s, it created such havoc eventually when it blew up that England didn't allow hardly any public trading in securities of any companies for decades thereafter. It just created the most unholy mess. So human greed and the aggression of the brokerage community creates these bubbles from time to time. And I think wise people just stay out of them.
Our next question comes from Achit Patel. He says, Charlie, in your past speeches, you have mentioned the term functional equivalent of embezzlement to describe situations where bubbles can form because both parties involved in a bubble believe the asset to be worth more than it truly is. Can U.S. Treasury bonds be such a case today? And what are the implications since Treasury assets underpin the value of every other asset? Thank you for all you do to educate us.
Well, no, I don't think we have a bubble in Treasury securities. I think they're a bad investment when interest rates are this low, and I never buy any, neither does the Daily Journal. But no, I don't think Treasury securities are a big problem. I do think that we don't know what these artificial low interest rates are going to do or how the economy is going to work in the future as governments print all this extra money. And the only opinion I have there is that I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen for sure. Larry Summers has recently been quoted as being worried that we have too much stimulus. And I don't know whether he's right or not.
Jason Subatki, he asked, previously you have said, quote, "It takes character to sit with all that cash and do nothing. I didn't get to where I am going after but I didn't get to where I am by going after mediocre opportunities," end quote. In the past few years, equity prices have increased significantly, and cash has arguably become riskier due to central banking policy. Have you considered amending this quote or lowering your standards?
Well, I think everybody is willing to hold stocks at higher price earnings multiples when interest rates are as low as they are now. And so I don't think it's necessarily crazy that good companies sell at way higher multiples than they used to. On the other hand, as you say, I didn't get rich by buying stocks at high price earnings multiples in the midst of crazy speculative booms. And I'm not going to change. I am more willing to hold stocks at high multiples than I would be if interest rates were a lot lower. Everybody is.
Cyril Tibbeville, he asked, do you think value investing is still relevant in a GDP decreasing world? And what about passive investing?
Well, that is easy. Value investing, the way I regard it, will never go out of style, because value investing, the way I conceive it, is always wanting to get more value than you pay for when you buy a stock. And that approach will never go out of style. Some people think that value investing is you chase companies which have a lot of cash and earn a lousy business or something. But I don't define that as value investing. I think all good investing is value investing. It's just that some people look for values in strong companies and some look for values in weak companies. But every value investor tries to get more value than he pays for. What is interesting is that in wealth management, a lot of people think that if they have 100 stocks, they're investing more professionally than they are if they have 4 or 5. I regard this as insanity, absolute insanity. I find it much easier to find 4 or 5 investments where I have a pretty reasonable chance of being right that they're way above average. I think it's much easier to find 5 than it is to find 100. I think the people who argue for all this diversification, by the way, I call it de-worsification, and which I copied from somebody, and I'm way more comfortable owning 2 or 3 stocks which I think I know something about and where I think I have an advantage.
Norman Bergman, he asked, why is Berkshire Hathaway selling shares of Wells Fargo as quickly as one can, and the Daily Journal has sold 1 share? If it's not good enough for Berkshire, shouldn't we have the same standards?
Well, I don't think it's required that we be actually the same on everything. We have different tax considerations. There's no question about the fact that Wells Fargo has disappointed long-term investors like Berkshire, because the old management, which is now removed, were not consciously malevolent or thieving, but they had terrible judgment in having a culture of cross-selling where the incentives on the poorly paid employees were too great to sell stuff the customers didn't really need. And when the evidence came in that the system wasn't working very well because some of the employees were cheating some of the customers, well, they came down hard on the customers instead of changing the system. That was a big error in judgment. And of course, it's regrettable. So you can understand why Warren got disenchanted with Wells Fargo. I think I'm a little more lenient. I expect less out of bankers than he does.
Atar Khan from Toronto, Canada, he asked, what is the wisdom behind holding bank stocks compared to other stocks? Are they more stable?
Well, I think all stocks can fluctuate, and I do think banking run intelligently is a very good business, but a very wise man was said on an early occasion, our trouble with banking is we have more banks than we have bankers. The kind of executives who have a Buffett-like mindset and never get in trouble are a minority group, not a majority group. And so it's hard to run a bank intelligently. There's a lot of temptation to do dumb things which will make the earnings next quarter go up but are bad for the long term. And some bankers yield to the temptations. So it's difficult, but it's not impossible, investing in bank stocks successfully.
Jeffrey Malloy asks, what is the biggest competitive threat to U.S. banks like Bank of America and U.S. Bank, both equity holdings of the Daily Journal Corporation, over the long term? He asks, is it digital wallets like PayPal, Square, or Apple Pay? Is it Bitcoin, decentralized finance, or something else?
Well, I don't think I know exactly what the future of banking is, and I don't think I know how the payment system will evolve. I do think that a properly run bank is a great contributor to civilization, and that the central banks of the world like controlling their own banking system and their own money supplies. So I don't think Bitcoin is going to end up the medium of exchange for the world. It's too volatile to serve well as a medium of exchange. And it's really kind of an artificial substitute for gold. And since I never buy any gold, I never buy any Bitcoin. And I recommend that other people follow my practice. Bitcoin reminds me of what Oscar Wilde said about fox hunting. He said it was the pursuit of the uneatable by the unspeakable.
Charlie, you actually got a couple of questions from shareholders about Bitcoin, and one follow-up here. Mark Blakely from Tulsa, Oklahoma, he asked if your opinion on cryptocurrencies has remained the same, and would the Daily Journal consider Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency as an asset on the balance sheet, similar to what Tesla recently did?
No, we will not be following Tesla into Bitcoin.
All right, we have another shareholder question. Suzanne Erica from Germany, she asks about BYD. BYD is in the Daily Journal stock portfolio with a very big paper gain. The stock has gained so much this year and last year. The stock appreciated probably way more than intrinsic value. How do you decide to hold on to a stock or sell some?
Well, that's a very good question. BYD stock did nothing for the first 5 years we held it. And last year it quintupled. And what happened was that BYD is very well positioned for the transfer of Chinese automobile production from gasoline driven cars to electricity driven cars. You can't imagine, it's in a wonderful position. And that excited the people in China, which has its share of crazy speculators. And So the stock went way up. Since we admire the company and like its position and we like its, we have a tendency to, and we pay huge taxes to a combination of the federal government and the state of California when we sell something. And on balance, we hold in to certain of these positions when normally we wouldn't buy a new position. Practically everybody does that. One of my smartest friends in venture capital is constantly getting huge clumps of stocks at nosebleed prices. And what he does is he sells about half of them always. That way, whatever happens, he feels smart. I don't follow that practice, but I don't criticize it either.
Charlie, we have a similar question from a shareholder named Lee. No last name provided here, but this person writes, Dear Mr. Munger, do you believe the valuations for electric car manufacturers are in bubble territory? Both Berkshire and Li Lu own BYD, a company you spoke highly of in the past. BYD sells at nearly 200 PE. This is cheap compared to Tesla, currently valued at over 1,100 times PE and 24 times sales. I know Berkshire is a long-term owner and rarely sells securities of high-quality companies it owns in its portfolio simply because it's overvalued, for example, Coca-Cola in the past. However, is there a price too high that the company's future profits simply cannot justify? Since we are on the subject of selling potentially overvalued security, could you provide your systems for selling securities?
Well, I so rarely hold a company like BYD that goes to a nosebleed price that I don't think I've got a system yet. And so I'm just learning as I go along. I think you can count on the fact that if we really like the company and like the management, and that is the way we feel about BYD, we're likely to be a little too loyal. And I don't think we'll change on that.
Charlie, Matt McAllister has a question on Costco. He asks, why almost 2 years ago did you believe that the only U.S. stock worth buying, that was the only U.S. stock worth buying at that time? And why did you feel that Amazon had more to fear from Costco than Costco had to fear from Amazon? And if you believe Jeff Bezos is one of the best businessmen you have ever known, would you consider investing early in any of the new projects he will inevitably focus his attention on now that he will not have to be as concerned about the day-to-day responsibilities of Amazon?
Well, no, I'm a great admirer of Jeff Bezos, whom I consider one of the smartest businessmen who ever lived. But I won't be following him. We have our crotchets, and I just don't know enough about it to want to go into that activity. And every investor, when you get into these hard questions, there's a lot of very intelligent, honorable people who reach opposite conclusions. And Costco, I do think, has one thing that Amazon does not. People really trust Costco to be delivering enormous values. And that is why Costco presents some danger to Amazon, because they've got a better reputation for providing value than practically anybody, including Amazon.
Philip Erica from Germany, he asks, how do you control your investments in a world where reasonable companies with a good image, like GE, sink rapidly into the bottom land of the stock market? How do you recognize a potential downfall in a company you hold/invest in? Or is it impossible to realize a deterioration quickly enough to exit without a loss?
Well, I never owned a share of General Electric because I didn't like the culture. And I was not surprised when it blew up. I do think the present CEO is an extraordinarily able man, and the directors made a very wise choice when they put him in charge. And I think the directors of GE deserve a lot of credit for making Larry Culp the CEO. If anybody can fix it, he can.
We have another question. Peter Ferlin from Toronto. Mr. Munger, you famously run investments through your mental checklist. Is there anything that you wish you had added to your checklist sooner?
Well, I'm constantly making mistakes where I can, in retrospect, realize that I should have decided differently. And I think that that is inevitable because it's difficult to be a good investor. And I'm pretty easy on myself these days. I'm satisfied with the way things have worked out, and I'm not gnashing my teeth that other people are doing better. And I think that the methods that I've used, including the checklists, are the correct methods. And I'm grateful that I found them as early as I did and that the methods have worked as well as they have. And I recommend that other people follow my example. It reminds me of the key phrase in Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. He says, "My sword I leave to him who can wear it." I'm afraid that's the way we all have to leave our swords.
Charlie Rhett Madison, he asks, you and Warren have been adept at quickly sizing people up, particularly business leaders and potential business partners. What do you look for in a leader? And do you and Warren have any tricks or shortcuts to size people up quickly and accurately?
Well, of course, if a person is a chronic drunk, we avoid him. Everybody has shortcuts to screen out certain hazards. And we probably have more of those shortcuts than others. And they've served us well over the years. One of the great advantages of the way Berkshire operates is that we associate with a lot of marvelous people. And if you stop to think about it, that is also true at the Daily Journal. What little newspaper company has come through the crisis that's destroying all the newspapers better than the little Daily Journal? And we've had marvelous people here who've helped us do it through very difficult times. And one of them is Jerry Salzman. And Jerry and I have been together how many years, Jerry?
Early 70s.
Early 70s. And it's rather interesting. I recognized early that Jerry could run anything he wanted to run. And when the old CEO of the Daily Journal died, Jerry was managing the business affairs of the Munger Tolles law firm. But he'd previously worked for Rick Guerin and me in running a little mutual fund that we bought control of. And he made a very favorable impression. And I said to Rick, we're going to make Jerry the head of the Daily Journal. And he gasped and said, but he's never had anything to do with newspapers or anything else. I said, it won't matter, he'll be able to do it. And we immediately assented and we put Jerry in, and he's made every decision wonderfully ever since. That's our system. Tom Murphy used to say his system of management was delegation just short of total abdication. And that's the way we handled Jerry.
Charlie, Caroline Smolinski would like to know, which do you think is crazier? Bitcoin at 50,000 or Tesla's fully diluted enterprise value of 1 trillion? What do you make of these two pricings?
Well, I have the same difficulty that Samuel Johnson once had when he got a similar question. And he said, I can't decide the order of precedency between a flea and a louse. And I feel the same way about those choices. I don't know which is worse.
Richard Saunders would like to know, should there be a tax on buying stock now that Robinhood trades are free?
Well, Robinhood trades are not free. When you pay for order flow, you're probably charging your customers more and pretending to be free. It's a very dishonorable, low-grade way to talk. And nobody should believe that Robinhood's trades are free.
We have a question from Andrew Peak in Weston, Connecticut. Mr. Munger, as a student of Chinese history, my question concerns China. In 1860, GDP per capita in China was 600. In 1978, the year Deng Xiaoping took over, it was 300. Today, it hovers around 9,500. Never before in the history of mankind have we seen such a rapid eradication of poverty, pulling approximately 800 million people out of destitution. You are on record as a zealous fan of the Chinese work ethic and Confucian values system. As we can see from the deteriorating U.S. relationship with China, the Western world does not understand China. What can we do to increase knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of the Chinese civilization?
Well, it's natural for people to think their own civilization and their own nation is better than everybody else. But everybody can't be better than everybody else. You're right, China's economic record among the big nations is the best that ever existed in the history of the world. And that's very interesting. A lot of people assume that since England led the Industrial Revolution and had free speech early, that free speech is required to have a booming economy as prescribed by Adam Smith. But the Chinese have proved you don't need free speech to have a wonderful economy. They just copied Adam Smith and left out the free speech, and it worked fine for them. As a matter of fact, it's not clear to me that China would have done better if they'd copied every aspect of English civilization. I think they would have come out worse because their position was so dire and the poverty was so extreme. They needed very extreme methods, totalitarian methods, if you will, to get out of the fix they were in. So I think what China has done was probably right for China, and that we shouldn't be so pompous as to be telling the Chinese they ought to behave like us because we like ourselves and our system. It's entirely possible that our system is right for us and their system is right for them.
Gavin Smith from Berkshire, England, he asked, Mr. Munger is a champion of Chinese stocks. How come? What, for example, is to stop the Chinese government from simply deciding one day to nationalize BYD?
Well, I consider that very unlikely. And I think Jack Ma was very arrogant to be telling the Chinese government how dumb they were and how stupid their policies were and so forth. Considering their system, that is not what he should have been doing. And no, I don't think that I think the Chinese have behaved very, very shrewdly in managing their economy, and they've gotten better results than we have in managing our economy. And I think that will probably continue. And sure, we all love the kind of civilization we have. I'm not saying I want to live in China. I prefer the United States, but I do admire what the Chinese have done. How can you not do it? Nobody else has ever taken a big country out of poverty so fast and so long. And what I see in China now just staggers me. There are factories in China that are just absolutely full of robots and are working beautifully. They're no longer using peasant girls to beat the brains out of our little shoe companies in America. They are joining the modern world very rapidly, and they're getting very skillful at operating.
Okay. We have a question from James Lee from La Cañada, California. He writes, "It seems likely that the current Fed policy of keeping interest rates near zero will only exacerbate the income disparity in this country by benefiting those who own the financial assets. What do you think we can do to help those who are currently falling behind as a result of this pandemic?"
Well, it's hard to know what exact macroeconomic policy is correct because no one knows for sure just how much government intervention is wise and at what point the government should stop intervening. And I don't think we have any great gift at making macroeconomic predictions about how the money, and I think that to some extent the complaint about the rich getting richer as a result of the COVID panic, I think that's a misplaced concern. Nobody was trying to make the rich richer. We were trying to save the whole economy under terrible conditions. And I think by and large we made the most practical decisions that were available to us. And we made the rich richer not as a deliberate choice, but because it was an accidental byproduct of trying to save the whole civilization. And it was probably wise that we acted exactly as we did. And it wasn't some malevolence of the rich that caused it. It was an accident. And the next time around, why the poor will get richer faster than the rich, that thing's circular. Who gets rich faster by class is going to vary over time, and I don't think anybody should be too concerned by it. As a matter of fact, what happens is that to make a nation rich, you need a free market system. And if you have a free market system that's trying to get rich in the way recommended by Adam Smith, what happens is that it's a very irritating system because the poverty that causes so much misery is also causing the growth that makes everybody get out of poverty. In other words, to some extent, it's a self-correcting system. And that makes the whole thing very awkward. And it's a shame that the economics textbooks don't emphasize how much a growing economy needs poverty in order to get out of poverty. And if you try and reduce the poverty too much, it's counterproductive. And these are very difficult questions, and most people assume that it's simple. I mean, if we could make the world richer by just raising the minimum wage to $100,000 a second or something, well, of course we would do it, but we can't.
Gavin Smith would like to know, Mr. Munger recently raised the alarm about at the level of money printing taking place. What are his thoughts on modern monetary theory?
a modern monetary theory means the people are less worried about an inflationary disaster like Weimar Germany from government printing of money and spending it. And that's monetary money. Now, so far, the evidence would be that maybe the modern monetary theory is right. Put me down as skeptical. I don't know the answer.
We do have. Okay. But going back to the Fed, William Roberts asked, the Federal Reserve appears to be supporting asset prices. Do you think this is a worthwhile policy objective given the effect it has on creating financial excesses and income inequality? What do you think the long-term consequences will be?
Well, I don't know how well the economy is going to work in the future. And I don't think that we or the Daily Journal is getting ahead because we've got some wonderful macroeconomic insight. And I do think that I'm way less afraid of inequality than most people who are bleating about it. I think that inequality is absolutely an inevitable consequence of having the policies that make a nation grow richer and richer and elevate the poor. So I don't mind a little inequality. And what I notice is that the rich families generally lose their power and wealth, and pretty fast. And so I don't worry that the country is being ruined by a few people who are getting ahead a little faster than the rest of us. I think the Chinese were very smart. Imagine a bunch of Chinese communists turning a whole lot of Chinese into billionaires in a big hurry. And what did the Chinese communists do with respect to death taxes? The death tax in China is zero. That's what the communists are doing. I think they're probably right, by the way.
We have a question from Simon Jacobs. He writes, many believe that inequality accelerated by this pandemic has reached alarming levels that demands drastic solutions, such as a wealth tax. Do you agree with the premise? And if so, how would you address inequality?
Well, I think any rich nation ought to have a social safety net that expands a little with its wealth. And that's what we've been doing through my whole lifetime, and I applaud the result. And I think the result would have been worse if either party had been in control all by itself for the whole period. In other words, I think the system of checks and balances and elections that our founders gave us actually gave us pretty much the right policies during my lifetime. And I hope that that will continue in the future. But I do think politics is getting more full of hatred and irrationality than it used to be in America, and I don't think that's good.
Alan Smolinski asked, Charlie, many major businesses and high net worth individuals have been leaving California. Can you speak to the causes, the trend, and make some predictions?
Yes, I think that is rising as we sit here. I just see more and more of the rich people leaving. And of course, I think it's vastly stupid for any state to be user-friendly to the rich people. They do way more good than harm. And they lose their money fast enough. You don't need to worry about them. And so I think the policy, Washington State is actually considering a wealth tax at the state level. I think that would be insanity. I predict that if they do that, a lot of people will leave Washington.
Brian Chin from Los Angeles asks, with all the work from home with Zoom and other technology, what do you think the future of commercial real estate looks like?
Well, real estate has always been a difficult field, and some types of real estate in recent years has been particularly difficult. I think office buildings are now in some trouble, and of course commercial real estate rented to stores has been in a lot of trouble for a long time. Apartments have come through better, but I don't think I've got a lot to contribute to it. I own some apartment houses, so I like that investment, provided you've got a perfect management, which is hard to get.
We have a healthcare related question from Abel Teklu. He asks, I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on Haven, particularly why it was ultimately closed, and what were the lessons learned?
I don't know anything about Haven. Yeah, give me a new question.
Sounds good. So here we go. I have a section that might be of interest to you. We have David Thompson, and he says, you've said several times that the best way to learn about business is to study the multi-decade financial results of great companies. You've even said business schools that don't adopt this method are doing their students a disservice. Would you mind elaborating on how a professor or individual should go about building a curriculum around this approach? What, for example, would you recommend as course materials?
Well, here's what I meant. And by the way, the Harvard Business School, when it started out way early, they started out with a history of business. They'd take you through the building of the canals and the building of the railroads and so on and so on. And you saw the ebb and flow of industry and the creative destruction of the economic changes and so on and so on. And it was a background which helped everybody. And of course, what I'm saying is that if I were teaching business, I would start the way Harvard Business School did a long time ago. I think they stopped because if you taught that course, you'd be stealing the best cases from the individual professors of marketing and so on and so on and so on. And I just think it was academically inconvenient for them. But of course you should start out by studying the history of capitalism and how it worked and why before you start studying business. And they don't do that very well. I'm talking about the business schools. If you stop to think about it, business success long-term is a lot like biology. And in biology, what happens is the individuals all die, and eventually so do all the species. And capitalism is almost as brutal as that. Think of what's died in my lifetime. Just think of the things that were once prosperous that are now in failure or gone. Whoever dreamed when I was young that Kodak and General Motors would go bankrupt? You know, it's incredible what's happened in terms of the destruction. And of course, that history is useful to know. Next.
Charles H. from New York. He actually quotes a speech that you gave, a commencement address you gave in 2007 at USC Law School. I'll paraphrase here. You wrote, or you said, so if a civilization can progress only when it invents the method of invention, you can only progress when you learn the method of learning. I was very lucky. I came to law school having learned the method of learning, and nothing has served me better in my long life than continuous learning. Charles H. would like to know, what's Charlie's method of learning?
Well, I think I had the right temperament. And when people gave me a good idea, and I could see it was a good idea, I quickly mastered it and started using it and just used it for the rest of my life. And you'd say that everybody does that in their education, but I don't think everybody does. It's such a simple idea. And of course, without the method of learning, you're like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. It's just not going to work very well. Take Jerry. You think the Daily Journal would have hundreds of millions of marketable securities now if Jerry didn't know how to learn something new? He didn't know one damn thing about the Daily Journal when we made him head of it. But he knew how to learn what he didn't know. Of course, that's a useful thing. And by the way, I think it's hard to teach. I think it's, to some extent, you either have it or you don't.
Well, Jerry Chang would like to know. Why are some people incapable of learning new ideas and behaviors?
Well, it's partly culture, but a lot of it's just born in. It's a quirk. Some people have a natural trend toward good judgment, and other people do just make their life is just a series of mistakes over and over again.
Lee would like to know, Charlie, dear Mr. Munger, you have revised your famous talk on the standard causes of human misjudgment with considerable new material back in 2005. Now 16 years have passed. Is there any new material?
No, I would say that of course there's some new material in misjudgment, but by and large most of the knowledge has been available for a long time. What prevents the wide use of helpful psychological insight is the fact that the psychology gets really useful when you integrate it with all other knowledge. And the reason, but they don't teach that in the psychology department because the academic system rewards little experiments that develop more insight into psychological tendencies instead of synthesizing what's already been discovered with the rest of knowledge. The psychology professors don't know all that much about the rest of knowledge, and they have no incentive to master it. And if you don't have mastered the rest of knowledge, you can't synthesize it with psychology. So that's an interesting example of self-learning. When I saw that psychology was necessary and I didn't have it, I didn't just learn the little tendencies well enough to get A's in psychology. I learned those tendencies well enough to synthesize some of the rest of knowledge. And that's the right way to do it. But show me a psychology department that knows how to do that. It's one of the most ignorant professions in the world.
Robert McKenzie asked, Charlie, you are known as an advocate for learning from one's mistakes. What did you learn from the Barry Dutton's bookstore building in Brentwood, that deal, and how would you apply that new knowledge or experience in the future?
Well, I think I've learned to avoid zoning work. When I was young, I rezoned some properties very successfully. And I was like Rip Van Winkle. When I tried to come back to it, I found that the world had changed. And I don't think you'll find me engaged in any massive rezonings in the future.
Okay. Vic Aurora asked, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to stay within their circle of competence, but finding that the pace of technological innovation is rapidly reducing that circle?
Well, of course, if they bring in a brand new technology you don't understand at all, you're at something of a disadvantage. And my advice would be, if you have a fixable disadvantage, remove it. And if it's unfixable, learn to live without it. What else can you do? You fix what can be fixed, and what can't be fixed, you endure.
Frank Wong from Houston, you are one of the oldest and greatest thinkers of our time. Any tips for someone who wants to work on and improve their ability to hold two opposing views at the same time? Any tips on how to generate insight in these types of situations?
Well, I do have a tip. At times in my life, I've put myself to a standard that I think has helped me. I think I'm not really equipped to comment on this subject until I can state the arguments against my conclusion better than the people on the other side. If you do that all the time, if you're looking for disconfirming evidence and putting yourself on a grill to make, that's a good way to help remove ignorance. What happens is that every human being tends to believe way more than he should in what he's worked hard to find out or what he's announced publicly that he already believes. In other words, while we shout our knowledge out, we're really pounding it in, we're not enlarging it. And I was always aware.
Ron L. has a question about Gene Abegg. Gene Abegg seems like he was one of the best bankers of the last century, achieving both extremely low loan loss rates and earning around 2% on assets over a long time period. I think the bankers of today could learn a lot from Gene, but little is known of him. Question: how did Gene achieve incredibly low loan losses over the long term while so many other bankers have failed miserably?
Well, that is an easy one. He was a very smart man. He lived in a particular town. He knew everybody and everything. He had excellent judgment. He cared terribly about not making bad loans or incurring dumb expenses. So he was just a perfect banker if you wanted never to have any trouble. And of course, it really helped to know everybody in town. If I had stayed in Omaha, where I was raised, and gone into the banking business, I would have been a hell of a good banker. Because even as a boy, I knew a lot about who was sound and who wasn't sound in Omaha. And that's the way Gene was in his community. Furthermore, he'd gone through the Great Depression. He'd been a receiver for a bank. Well, of course, that made him very leery of dumb loans. And of course, he hated costs. He was just a very old-fashioned sound thinker. And of course, that will still work. But it's hard for anybody else to. He really knew everything you had to avoid credit losses in a small town in Illinois.
We have a question from Stephen Chen. Charlie, you have been a long-time admirer of Singapore and Lee Kuan Yew. You once said that study the life and work of Lee Kuan Yew, you are going to be flabbergasted. I would be curious to know, how did you start your interest about Singapore and Lee Kuan Yew, and have you met Lee Kuan Yew in person, and if there is one thing the world could learn from Singapore now, what would that be?
Well, Lee Kuan Yew had the best record as a nation builder if you're willing to count small nations in the group, he had probably the best record that ever existed in the history of the world. He took over a malarial swamp with no army, no nothing. And pretty soon, he turned that into this gloriously prosperous place. And his method for doing it was so simple. You know, the mantra he said over and over again was very simple. He said, figure out what works and do it. Now, it sounds like anybody would know that made sense. But, you know, most people don't do that. They don't work that hard at figuring out what works and what doesn't. And they don't just keep everlastingly at it the way he did. And again, he was a very smart man. And he had a lot of good ideas, and he absolutely took over a malarial swamp and turned it into modern Singapore in his own lifetime. It was absolutely incredible. And he did not have, it was a one-party system, but he could always be removed by the electorate. He was not a dictator. And he was just so good. He was death on corruption, which was a very good idea. And in fact, there's hardly anything he touched he didn't improve. When I look at modern Singapore health system, it costs 20% of what the American system costs. And of course, it works way better than our medical system. And that's entirely due to the practical talent of Lee Kuan Yew. Just time after time, he would choose the right system. And in Singapore, you get a savings account the day you're born. And if you don't spend the money, you and your heirs get to spend it eventually. In other words, it is your money. So that to some extent, everybody buying medical service in Singapore is paying for it himself. And of course, people behave more sensibly when they're spending their own money. He just, time after time, he would do something like that recognized reality and worked way better than what other people were doing. And there aren't that many people like Lee Kuan Yew that have ever lived. So of course I admire him. I have a bust of Lee Kuan Yew in my house. I admire him that much.
Charlie, Ed Collins, he would like to know, what is the biggest lie currently being perpetuated by the investment complex?
Well, commission-free trading is a very good candidate for that if you want to emphasize disgusting lies. Commission-free trading is not free.
Michael or Shaggy would like to know, do you think it's best to invest in the common stocks of businesses early, or while they are more nascent and the industry is smaller, or wait until they are the clear winner of a more mature industry?
Well, I think Warren and I are better at buying mature industries than we are at backing startups like Sequoia. The best venture capital operation probably in the whole world is Sequoia's, and they are very good at this early stage investing. And I would hate to compete with Sequoia in their field. I think they'd run rings around me. So I think for some folks, early stage investing is best. And for other folks, what I've done in my life is best.
Beauchamp asks, Charlie, last year, almost every e-commerce, internet, and internet adjacent stock was up 100+%. You've said recently that Sequoia is the greatest investment firm ever. Do you think the digital economy has reached a tipping point such that, quote, This time is different, end quote. And that conventional valuation measures for these types of companies are dead? Or does this environment remind you of 1999? How do you reconcile the idea of paying 50 or 60 times revenue for a growing but unprofitable business with the more traditional value investing concept of a margin of safety?
Well, generally speaking, I don't try and compete with Sequoia. You can argue that I got close to Sequoia when, with Li Lu, we bought into BYD. That was not a startup, but it was so small and thinly traded that we were buying into a venture capital type investment, but in the public market. But with that one exception, I've stayed out of Sequoia's business because they're so much better at it than I would be, and I don't know how to do it the way they do
it. Michael Assail asks, of the various types of moats and competitive advantages, which types do you think will be most important in the years ahead, and what combinations of competitive advantages can you imagine will create any new types of moats?
Well, that's too hard in general a question for me. The one thing I will say is that a lot of the moats that looked impassable, people found a way to just think of all the monopoly newspapers that used to be, in effect, part of the government of the United States, and they're all dying, every damn one of them almost. A lot of the old moats are going away, and of course people are creating new moats all the time. That's the nature of capitalism. It's like evolution in biology. New species are created and old species are dying. And of course it's hard to negotiate in such a field. But there's no rule that life has to be easy on the mental side. Of course it's going to be difficult.
Vishal Patel in Toronto. Vishal Patel in Toronto says, I enjoyed your Caltech interview and wanted you to elaborate and provide more insights on your point of great investors and great chess players. How are they similar or different? And Vishal also wants to know, Charlie, if you have seen the television show Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Well, I have seen an episode or two of the Queen's Gambit, and what I think is interesting about chess is, to some extent, you can't learn it unless you have a certain natural gift. And even if you have a natural gift, you can't be good at it unless you start playing at a very young age and get huge experience. So it's a very interesting competitive field. And I think that great investment, I think people have the theory that any intelligent, hardworking person can get to be a great investor. I think any intelligent person can get to be pretty good as an investor and avoid certain obvious traps. But I think that I don't think everybody can be a great investor or a great chess player. I knew a man once, Henry Singleton, who was not a chess champion, but he could play chess blindfolded at just below the grandmaster level. But Henry was a genius. And there aren't many people that can do that. And if you can't do that, you're not going to win the chess championship of the world, and you're not going to do as well in business as Henry Singleton did. I think some of these things are very difficult, and I think by and large it's a mistake to hire in investment management to hire armies of people to make conclusions. Better off to concentrate your decision power in one person, the way the Li Lu partnership does, and choose the right person. I don't think it's easy for ordinary people to become great investors.
We have another question from Ankit Patel in Cupertino, California. Hi, Charlie. You identified the opportunity in electrification and invested in BYD. How do you think about the hydrogen opportunity for transportation, and how does it compare to the electric opportunity? Specifically thinking about trucks versus cars, will we have less gas stations or truck stops in the future?
Well, I hope we don't have less truck stops because Berkshire Hathaway is deeply involved in truck stops. But of course, I think there will be more automation in transportation of all kinds in the future. I don't think I've got any great insight about hydrogen. I do think having a whole system to sell hydrogen is difficult. On the other hand, the buses in Los Angeles work on natural gas. All the buses. And it saved Los Angeles a fortune because gas is so much cheaper than gasoline. And so I've seen a whole bus system shift from gasoline or diesel to a gas, and so it obviously isn't impossible. But you have to create a whole new system of supply for it. And of course, I remember, I don't even know how much more difficult, how much more dangerous it would be to deal with hydrogen than it is to deal with gasoline, which is also a dangerous substance. No, you've reached the limit of my circle of competence. I can't help you.
Got it. We have a couple of Daily Journal related questions from shareholders. From Miles Marino, he wants to know, what would management do with a sudden windfall of profits? How would they think about current opportunities with low rates and low inflation?
Well, it's not easy to handle accumulated money in the current environment when the stocks are so high and many real estate, parcels of real estate of certain kinds is also very inflated. So it's very difficult. And all I can say is we'll do the best we can. But when it gets difficult, I don't think there's any automatic fix for difficulty. I think when difficulty comes, I expect to have my share.
Norman Bergman would like to know, does management, in your opinion, have a moral responsibility to have their shares trade as close to fair value as possible?
Well, I don't think you can make that a moral responsibility, because if you do that, I'm a moral leper, because the Daily Journal stock sells way above the price I would pay if I were buying a new stock. So, no, I don't think it's the responsibility of management to assure where the stock sells. I think a management should tell it like it is at all times, and not be a big promoter of its own stock, but
Tom Seymour, he has a question. In 1999, the year the Daily Journal bought Sustain, the traditional business employed 355 full-time employees and 61 part-time employees. In 2010, that was down to 165 full-time employees and 15 part-time employees. This year's annual report suggests that the traditional business has 97 full-time employees. Has the quality of the publications suffered as the employment levels have decreased? Or has the digital revolution caused enormous productivity improvements in those businesses?
well, of course the place is downsized. It had to, because the the traditional business, newspaper business, is shrinking. And of course, Jerry, being a sound thinker, did the very unpleasant work of shrinking it appropriately and without bothering me or Rick, showing how wise we were to put him there in the first place. Has the quality gone down? Well, I don't think the quality in publishing public notice advertising has gone down, but I hardly think the editorial quality could go way up while employees were going down. My guess is we have suffered some in editorial quality. Jerry, do you have a comment on that?
There are a number of factors that come into play here, and you mentioned technology. That's very, very important. Many of our systems are in the cloud, all except for the legal advertising system, which we had to build because nobody else has the volume that we have. Our editorial system, our advertising system, all in the cloud. Accounting is also in the cloud. And the disruption from the decline in newspapers has had a significant impact. Classified advertising is down significantly. In display advertising, for example, we now utilize a very friendly company that worked with us for 25 years, and now they are helping us sell advertising. Also, fortunately, before the pandemic, we got out of the conference-type events, and we were not subjected to the problems of no conferences, nobody to attend. And when you look at what's happened in California, the price of real estate and rentals, we've reduced the number of offices we have both for Journal Technology and for the Daily Journal. Very difficult to hire reporters in the San Francisco area with all the demands coming from the internet companies wanting to have editorial product. All those factors come into play, and also if you go back a little further, we eliminated California Lawyer magazine, and we had at one time an office in Seattle and one in Denver, and about the same time we bought an office in a newspaper in Phoenix, and that worked out extremely well. The ones in Seattle and Denver, difficult to break into the legal advertising system, which supports so many newspapers, not only in California, but elsewhere.
It's very hard
Charlie,
to have a shrinking business. And Jerry has done it magnificently well. It was totally required.
Charlie, our next question comes from Mark Blakely. Do you believe the market is going through a long-term value slump similar to 1999, or do you believe technology has caused a permanent change in how companies should be valued?
Well, I don't know how permanent it's going to be, but it certainly caused a change. And of course, it's hard to know what the future holds in a complex system where you can't predict a lot of things. And generally, what people do is they have financial reserves, so they have some options if trouble comes, and they adapt the way Jerry has to required downsizings or required upsizings. One of the interesting things about the Daily Journal is that we made all that money in the foreclosure boom. So we were like an undertaker who suddenly got prosperous in a plague year. And it's a funny way to make money. And that happened because Jerry and I bought these little flea-bitten newspapers all over the state for just as a precaution to make sure we could serve public notice advertising wherever it arose in the state. And
One-stop center.
Yes, and that turned out to be a wonderful idea, and that's one of the reasons we made all this money. So the shareholders have been lucky to have somebody like Jerry here who could learn what he didn't know and fix it.
Charlie, Chris Demetra, he asks, you've spent much of your life contributing your wisdom to schools and hospitals. How would you advise these institutions to manage their endowments over the coming decades?
Well, the one charitable institution where I have had some influence for a very long time has a whole bunch of hotshot financiers in every branch of wealth management there is on the board. And that institution has two assets in its endowment accounts. One is a big interest in Li Lu's China fund, which is a limited partnership, and the other is a Vanguard index fund. And as a result of holding those two positions, we have way lower costs than anybody else, and we make more money than practically everybody else. So you now know what I do in charitable institutions. By the way, that's not the normal outcome in America. The wealth management industry has a crisis on its hands. They really need the world to stay the way it is. And that isn't necessarily right for its customers.
Our next question comes from Randy Jeffs. It is estimated that the Gates Foundation has saved well over 100 million lives. Buffett's donations to the foundation has obviously helped to save many millions. Are Berkshire's managers aware that through their efforts to create business success at Berkshire, that they have been involved in saving millions of lives?
Well, I'm sure some are, but by and large, that's not what Warren is known for. He doesn't mind at all not getting credit for his charitable donations.
We have a question from Bergen, Norway. This comes from Knut Martin Carlson. He would like to know, is the oil and gas industry the new newspapers?
I don't think so. I think the oil and gas industry will be here for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, it'll be here for a long, long time if we stop using much hydrocarbons in transportation. The hydrocarbons are also needed as chemical feedstocks, and I don't think that hydrocarbons are going. I'm not saying that oil and gas is going to be a wonderful business, but I don't think it's going away, and I don't think it's like the newspaper business.
We have a couple more energy-related questions. One from Simon Jacobs. Actually, this is environmental. Do you believe global warming is an existential threat to humankind? And if so, how do you think society should address it, especially because poor countries require much more cheap energy to reduce poverty?
Well, of course, it's very hard to fix the global warming problem when the poor countries need to burn coal to stay alive and so on. And so it's a serious problem. And on the other hand, we have a fair amount of time to do it. And a rich civilization can afford to do it if we absolutely have to. If the seas were to rise 60 feet, which could happen in another 100 years or so, 60 feet, we'd have to build enormous barriers to sea entry. Florida would have a really serious problem. On the other hand, it could be handled. Bill Gates has written a book on this subject recently, which he concludes that it would be expensive, but it could be handled. And his conclusion is that mankind should just step up to it and do it. And I don't want to quarrel. I kind of admire the way Bill takes on these very hard problems. I tend to avoid the ones which I'm not good at, and I'm not good at a lot of different problems.
Charlie, probably the most popular question here, it's probably too many shareholders, but they would like to know the books that you're currently reading and books that you recommend.
I think I'll skip that one. Go on.
Sounds good. Okay. We have one from Christopher Sy. He writes, Ben Franklin said, were it offered to my choice, I would have no objection to a repetition of the same life from its beginning, only asking the advantages authors have in second edition to correct some faults of the first. If you were offered a fresh start today, what would you do differently in life and in investing?
Well, Ben Franklin was one of the wisest men who ever lived, and yet he made a lot of mistakes in the course of living his life. And of course, if he had a chance to do it over again, he would avoid those mistakes. We would all say that. And he was very amiable the way he talked about it. But of course, if we got a chance to do it again, we would do it better. And however, the number of people who ever got a chance to do it again is zero. So it's a very theoretical discussion. But of course, there's an old German proverb I've always liked, and it says that man is too soon old and too late smart. And that's true whether you're Benjamin Franklin or Joe Klutz. And we all live with that problem. And we're all pretty forgiving of ourselves too, which is probably a good thing.
Charlie, Lee would like to know.
I wouldn't change my life all that well. I think most people are assuming tolerable success in life are about as happy as they were ordained to be, and they wouldn't have been a lot happier if they were richer, or a lot less happy if they'd been poorer. I think most people are born with a happy stat, and their happy stat has more to do with their happiness than their outcomes in life.
Lee would like to know, Mr. Munger, your advice given on choosing a good spouse in Poor Charlie's Almanac is terse. You have said that the single best way is to deserve a good spouse, because a good spouse is by definition not nuts. That is true and makes sense. However, could you be more specific? You used examples of Lee Kuan Yew's good judgment in choosing someone with brains over certain physical attributes in your past interview. Could you give more examples, both good and bad ones, from your personal observations or through vicarious readings?
Well, I can't top Lou's example. In his early education, he was the second-ranked student in the school. He was that smart. And there was one woman who was a year older than he was who was the first-ranked student in the school. So he married her. And of course, his son, who's a bright man, is now, Prime Minister of Singapore. A little wisdom in spouse selection is very desirable. You can hardly think of a decision that matters more to human felicity than who you marry.
Chris from Park City, Utah would like to know, Mr. Munger, given all of your donations to physics, what is your favorite way of applying physics to society's problems and also to investing?
I don't think I use much physics in solving my investment problems, but it occasionally helps me. Occasionally some damn fool will suggest something that violates the laws of physics, and I always turn off my mind the minute I realize the poor bastard doesn't know any physics.
Paul Ianni would like to know, how important is the analysis of company culture in the investment process?
Well, it's quite important. Part of the success of a company like Costco, and it's been amazing that one little company starting up not all that many decades ago could become as big as Costco did, as fast as Costco did. And part of the reason for that was cultural. They have created a strong culture of fanaticism about cost and quality and so forth, and efficiency and honor, all the good things, and of course it's all worked. And so, of course, culture is very important.
Charlie, Jason Chin, he would like to know, you often advocate for learning from other people's big calamities and stupidities. What would be a mistake at the Daily Journal where we can all learn from?
Well, Jerry, what's the biggest mistake we've made?
Well, we don't think about mistakes. We take the situation as it is and try to solve it.
I can't think of a we paid high prices for some little companies in the course of trying to enter the court software business. But I don't think that's going to end up a mistake. God knows it was difficult, but I don't think it's a mistake. I don't think we have made a lot of horrible mistakes. Look around these real estate. We bought all these buildings cheaply. They're in a place that's gotten more valuable. Mostly and I don't think it was a mistake to buy the Daily Journal when we did, paying the price we did. We paid $2.5 million for it. We got a dividend of $2.5 million shortly thereafter. Everything you see is profit. I think we've coped pretty well so far.
Freddie from Istanbul would like to know, if you had a chance to make an addition or a revision to Poor Charlie's Almanac, what would that be?
Well, I don't have any wonderful new thoughts. You know, to the extent that my thoughts have helped my life, I think I've pretty well run the course. And I don't think I'm likely to have any new thoughts that are going to work miracles either. But I find that the old ways of doing things still work. I've been engaged in recent years in trying to create a better type of student dormitory. And I find that by working at that, I can actually make some improvements even though I'm old. So I'm kind of pleased that I'm still functioning at all. I'm not trying to move mountains.
A couple more questions left here. We have one. Do you believe any psychological personality tests, such as the Myers-Briggs type indicator personality test, to be of any good in choosing a compatible partner? Given that choosing a spouse is probably the most important decision one can make in life, could you please elaborate on the subject, and could you consider giving a talk on this particular subject, the most important decision in life, to benefit those who are single, perhaps including some of your grandchildren and great-grandchildren?
Well, you know, I had a failed marriage, so I don't think I'm in a perfect position to advise the young about marriage. And no, I don't have anything to contribute.
Charlie, Victor Liu from Los Angeles, he would like to know, what have you done to live such a long life? And if you could share the secret to living a long and healthy and happy life.
Well, I think I'm alive because of a lucky genetic accident. And I don't think I can teach you how to retroactively get a new accident yourself. And Jerry's lived a long time too, and I think we've both been lucky. No, I don't have any secrets. I think I would have lived a long time if I'd lived a different life.
Any sort of wisdom, though, on what it takes to live a happy life? What are those kind of principles?
Oh yes, well, a happy life is very simple. The first rule of a happy life is low expectations. That's one you can easily arrange. And if you have unrealistic expectations, you're going to be miserable all your life. And I was good at having low expectations. And that helped me. And also, when you get reverses, if you just suck it in and cope, that helps if you don't just fretfully stew yourself into a lot of misery. And then if there are certain behavioral rules, some of them, Rose Blumkin had quite an effect on the Berkshire culture, and she created a business with like 500 Depression dollars that became a huge business. You know what her mottos were? Always tell the truth and never lie to anybody about anything. And those are pretty good rules, and they're pretty simple. And a lot of the good rules of life are like that. They're just very simple. And do it right the first time, Lee Quinn. That's a really good rule.
I suppose we have time for one more question. It's been a year since the coronavirus pandemic came to the U.S. What have you all learned about running a business in the past year? Has there been anything that has surprised you? And what would be your best advice to someone starting a business now?
Well, I don't think I have a lot of wonderful advice about starting a business, but what we've learned in the pandemic is that we can do with a lot less travel and a lot more Zooming. And I don't think that when the pandemic is over, I don't think we're going back to just the way things were. I think we're going to do a lot less travel and a lot more Zooming, and I think the world is going to be quite different. A lot of the people who are doing this remote working. A lot of people are going to work 3 days a week in the office and 2 days a week at home. A lot of things are going to change. And I expect that, and I welcome it.
Well, Charlie and Jerry, this has been such an excellent shareholder Q&A, and I know our viewers really appreciate it. So we only have a few minutes left, and I was hoping maybe for the both of you, if you want to just kind of share some parting thoughts with the viewers who are watching all around the world.
Well, Jerry, we're really old, both of us. And I think both of us have done the same thing. We just suck it in and cope. We don't have any other secrets, do we, Jerry?
None. You have to be concerned about employees' lives. That's very, very important. And for example, here we must have 30 or 40 desks, and we expect many of our employees to always be at client court offices because we work with them very closely to make sure they get what they need. And so we do, as Charlie indicated, have a lot of travel. And that's been greatly curtailed. And we can't go to many offices because they're closed. And some of our technology, like e-filing, for example, the courts are closed. And we are very excited to look forward to enabling the courts to function as we know that they want to and will in the future. So you have to be a little closer to the employees' needs and desires and babysitting and all those activities that were kind of taken for granted in the past. It doesn't happen anymore. Everybody's got a different situation. Nothing is particularly obvious for everybody to do the same thing, and we have to function as an informal committee in that we have to bring our employees and our clients, staff together to work out what they already know and how we can help them do a better job and a more efficient job. So the people part has changed quite considerably. Being a small company, we're beholden to the guidelines of the county of Los Angeles and other counties. We have offices in all the major cities in California and also in Logan, Utah. And we are subject to the orders and directions of those counties, which before really didn't impact anything.
There's one thing that we're quite passionate about, and that is serving the customers who have trusted us. And we are really interested in doing a good job in Australia and in California and in all the other places where people have trusted us. You can hardly think of anything more important in life than being reliable for the people who trust you. And we're going to bust our ass to try and do a good job. And the Daily Journal shareholders will have to take whatever outcome comes from caring more about our customers than is at all common.
Charlie Munger and Jerry Salzman, I thank you so much for those nearly 2 hours of your wisdom on business, investing, and life. And I know our viewers at home appreciate it. Be well to you both, and more coming up on Yahoo Finance Live after this.
A business empire needs decisive leadership, but also a steady hand. For over 40 years, Charlie Munger has been the latter for Berkshire Hathaway. As Berkshire's vice chairman, the 95-year-old Munger is Warren Buffett's right-hand man. He's also an investing legend in his own right. Munger ran a firm in the 1960s and 70s that scored returns of over 24% per year. He's here to talk about how to make investment decisions and life choices that help secure prosperity and longevity. I'm Andy Serwer. Welcome to Influencers, and welcome to our guest, Vice Chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Charlie Munger. Charlie, nice to see you.
Delighted to be here.
So you just had the annual meeting, and I have to ask you what your favorite moments of that were.
What I like is that both the shareholders and the employees of Berkshire are so extremely enthusiastic. And it's not just that they've made a lot of money and have nice careers. They think they're on the right side.
And, you know, they come there to hear you guys talk all day. And
yes, like a cult.
It's like a cult?
Yeah.
In a good way, though.
In a good cult, yes, a good cult.
Okay. I mean, in the stuff that they hear, some of it's new, some of it's old, and a lot of it is common sense. And you were talking a lot about...
All of it is common sense.
Right.
But of course, when people use the word common sense, what they mean is uncommon sense. Because the standard human condition is ignorance and stupidity. And so when they say old Joe has common sense, what they mean is he has uncommon sense.
I guess it's a bit of a misnomer then. But
it really is.
So, yeah, why is it that people can't think clearly about investing or decisions in their lives?
Well, they don't think very well about sex or gambling either. You know, the standard human condition is a lot of miscognition.
And there are ways to make hay of that, or...
Yes, you take advantage of other people. You can improve your own life by eliminating your miscognitions.
Let me shift gears a little bit, Charlie, and ask you about the U.S. economy. And what is your take on where things are right now?
Well, obviously they're booming, but you know, the economy sometimes booms and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to live your life through both episodes. And our attitude is we just keep swimming, and sometimes the tide is with us and sometimes against. But we keep swimming either way.
Are you surprised by how long this expansion has lasted?
Of course, it's lasted a long time. But what was really remarkable is we never printed money so much and spent it so fast and bought back so much debt, public and private. So this is total terra incognita in economics. And nobody knew for sure how it was going to work.
So is it risky then?
Of course it was risky, but it worked. And I don't think they had much else that would work. They weren't set up to do stimulus. Too much controversy, democratic inertia, various kinds. So they had to do something, and all they had left was just to print money and start buying things. And that's what they did. And it turned out to be a very wise response. And what's even more remarkable is that both Congress and the presidency and under both parties made the same decision. They all cooperated. It was the last time.
But where is that going to leave us, ultimately?
Well, it left us licking the Great Recession, so maybe we ought to try cooperation again since it worked so well once.
How much is President Trump responsible for this current economic situation?
Well, I think he deserves some credit, but a lot of it just happened.
Economic cycle?
Yeah. And the decisions of his predecessors.
What do you think about the president's campaign to lobby the Fed to lower rates or keep rates low?
Well, I think presidents have always done this. If you're a politician in a democracy, of course you want people to print money and spend it. And Of course, it's not a good idea. The best example, probably in the whole world, is Singapore, which has zero debt and never prints money and spends it, and is one of the most successful places on earth. I wish we were like that, but there's only one Singapore.
Well, some people now say that federal debt is not a problem at all.
Well, if you believe that, you believe in the tooth fairy, because then we don't have to have any more taxes ever. We'll just print money and live happily ever after. It obviously won't work.
So
there comes a point when printing money is counterproductive.
Are we at that point? Are you concerned?
No, I don't think we are at that point, but nobody knew where the point was going to come, and we don't know now. None of these people who are so pompously sure of things, because we all want reassurance, and so they provide it. But nobody really knows how much of this is too much.
And do you have any thoughts on Jay Powell and the job that he's done?
Well, I think a lot of him. I think he's as good a choice as we could have made.
One consequence of this expansion, or actually it precedes that, it's just something that's occurred in our economy over the past 50 years really, has been wealth and income inequality.
Yeah.
One, do you see it as a problem? Two, if so, how do we address it?
Well, it's a problem if enough politicians are screaming about it. That makes it a problem. If it weren't for that, this one will go away by itself. It happened by accident. We were in desperate trouble. We were on the eve of a great recession that could have been a Great Depression, and then followed by the rise of people like Adolf Hitler and so on and so on. So we faced a real catastrophe. The only weapon they had with this huge was to print money and spend it. And they did it. Well, of course, and they drove interest rates down to zero, or real interest rates. Well, of course, that lifted asset values for the people who were already rich. Nobody was trying to make the rich richer. It just was an accidental byproduct of a correct governmental decision made on a bipartisan basis. And since it was a weird byproduct that occurred in a weird time, it will go away by itself in due course.
It will go away by itself?
Sure.
So there's no reason for...
The people that are screaming about it are idiots. It's going to go away by itself. Now, that's not to say that we can't raise the minimum wage a little and enlarge the social safety net a little. We should be doing that as we prosper. Both parties agree on that.
What do you think about the proposals put forth by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Elizabeth Warren that would sort of greatly address this problem?
Well, I don't consider those two necessarily the best prescribers in the world. They're kind of likable. I particularly kind of like Elizabeth Warren. She's got a manner that appeals to me.
Really?
But I don't agree with her attitude. I don't think she's studied Adam Smith enough.
And what about AOC? Do you have any take on her?
I don't think she knows who Adam Smith was.
I want to ask you just a few more questions about politics, and then we can talk about the markets and Berkshire a little bit more. What about the situation that we find ourselves in with the Mueller report and the way Congress and the Democrats are fixating on that and the president's on the defensive? What is your thoughts, thinking on that?
I tend to avoid the whole subject, just as I ignore tide with me, tide against, and just keep swimming. Blinded by their anger, and I don't want to be blinded by my anger, so I control it. And I would recommend it to both parties. I think they should all cool it.
Why are we so divided up, Charlie, right now in this country?
Well, anger, when you pound on one another, feeds on itself. That's one of the great difficulties with it. It's irrational and it feeds on itself. So I liked the world when it was Dwight Eisenhower against Adlai Stevenson, and more civility, and Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill got along, and a lot of it was done. My war was a bipartisan war, and in the aftermath, foreign policy of the United States was a bipartisan policy. I like that world better. I hate this extreme hatred on both sides.
Will we ever get back to those days or get to new days where we don't have the hatred?
Probably. If you live long enough, a lot of good things happen and a lot of bad things happen.
Fair enough. It's my understanding, Charlie, that you were instrumental in helping Warren get away from focusing on the cigar butt form of investing and looked more towards companies that I guess you could call them branded companies.
Better businesses.
Better businesses, right?
Yes.
How did you help him make that decision?
Well, it was perfectly obvious, and he'd made so much money in the other technique that it was hard for him to leave something that had worked so well. But it was not going to scale. So when he started looking for investment values in great businesses that were temporarily under pressure, it changed everything for the better. Now we could scale up to the big time.
Are Apple and Amazon technology companies or are they brand companies?
Both.
Someone told me they asked Warren if he could buy one brand, this was about 40 years ago, what that company, what that brand would be, and he said Gillette, which makes sense. What would that company be today?
Coca-Cola.
Still?
If you take the amount of Coca-Cola drunk in the world in the main flavor, it's one hell of a brand. Now, it's such a different product from this stuff on the internet. I don't have the same. My judgment would not be as good on the internet as it is on Coca-Cola.
I want to get back to Apple. Tim Cook was at the meeting yesterday.
He was indeed.
Did you get a chance to speak with him?
I did.
Can you tell us what you guys talked about?
Nothing. We exchanged pleasantries. But he's a wonderful guy. And of course, it's a huge record that he's building.
Let me ask you a little bit about Kraft Heinz and that situation. During the meeting yesterday, we found out that the chief marketing officer was leaving the company. Did you know that, and what does that mean for the company?
I knew nothing about it in advance. What happened there was very easy. The truth of the matter is that Heinz ketchup is a stronger brand than Kraft cheese, and they paid more for it. So one acquisition worked brilliantly and the other worked poorly. Well, welcome to adult life. It happens to everybody.
You mentioned that you think that Tim Sloan could still be or should still be the CEO of Wells Fargo?
Yeah, if I were running the world, Tim Sloan would still be the CEO of Wells Fargo.
Well, why did he leave then?
Well, he made this decision, but he was being pushed hard. He did it for the benefit of the company. There was just so much of this partisan hatred was washing off against Wells Fargo. It's understandable. He was there for a long time. The company had defrauded its own customers. Nobody was seemingly being punished for it in some people's minds. Listen, 2 CEOs left under pressure. I regard that as a lot of punishment. So I don't think these people were failing with their anger. They removed 2 CEOs, but now they went out. It's like Tim Sloan was not responsible for the crazy incentive system that created the trouble. So they threw him out the way you'd take out the charwoman when you raid a gambling establishment.
Getting back to Coca-Cola, you mentioned that it would be a bad idea if it got into cannabis. I mean, why not? Doesn't it make sense?
Because it's such a wholesome brand and associated with happiness. Why do we want to associate it with a recreational drug?
Well, they have to grow.
I think that would be a terrible idea.
What about Boeing and the 737 MAX? I mean, they're going to fix that. Would you go on the plane?
Fix it.
Would you go on the plane after they said it was fixed?
Yes, of course. And they will fix it well. But I don't think it was really all that excusable that they made the mistake.
I want to ask you, Charlie, a little bit about...
that was a serious mistake.
Yeah. So then they're still working on it.
Yeah, they'll fix it. Boeing probably has the best safety record in the world if you take 60 years. And this was a very unusual lapse. There may not be another one for 60 years.
Is that lapse symptomatic, though, or indicative of us developing software that's too powerful and we don't understand the consequences of it?
No, I don't think the problem was that. I think it was just an absolute lapse of being a big bureaucracy.
You also mentioned at the meeting yesterday doing billion-dollar deals overnight with very short contracts.
Yeah, we've always done that.
Has that ever blown up on you?
I can't think of a single example in my whole life where keeping it simple has worked against us. We've made mistakes, but they weren't because we kept it simple.
And that's simple.
I would say that the chief advantage that Berkshire has had in accumulating a good record is that we have avoided the pompous bureaucratic systems. We've tried to give power to very talented people and let them make very quick decisions.
I want to ask you about something that's talked about all the time with you guys, which is succession. And you talk about that all the time, and there's been countless barrels of ink spilled. But if you're getting older, how do you make the decision to step back if you may not have the mental acuity to make that decision?
Well, I think you'll be surprised at how well both Warren and I are capable of stepping back when we feel our powers are too far deteriorated.
Have you talked about that?
Sure. And Warren has told people to speak up when the time comes. If we've been rational all this way, do you think we're not going to try and be rational right to the bitter end?
Is the process, I mean, we're sort of in the middle of the process. You've been giving more and more control or authority to Ajit and Greg and Todd and Ted. So it's sort of a continuum, a process like that?
Of course. And by the way, it's working fine. It's amazing how good this next generation is. And they're steeped in our non-bureaucratic ways. There's these big bureaucracies, they think the work is done if you get it out of your inbox and into somebody else's inbox. That is not getting it done. Getting it done is when it's done, not when it's in somebody else's inbox. And if everybody's in a big committee meeting all the time, you're worn out at the end of the day and you haven't done anything.
Are Ted and Todd making all the stock choices at this point?
No, of course not. Warren steps in and does big things.
Where do you think, Charlie, the biggest opportunities are globally right now?
Well, I don't think we have a master plan of knowing where the opportunities are. We're trying to find intelligent things to do with a torrent of surplus cash. And we've always had a torrent of surplus cash. And we're always looking for intelligent things to do with it. And if we find things that are intelligent to do, we do it. And if we don't find anything, we let the cash build up. What the hell is wrong with that?
Not much.
Yeah, not much is right.
So I know that you guys have talked about England, or it seems that you have, because Warren talked about doing this article in the FT as basically a way of signaling potential interest, given that Brexit may create some opportunities. Is that the case?
What the hell do I know about Brexit? I don't even know how I'd vote on it if I were in England. Yeah, I don't know much about it. But we'll react to opportunities wherever they are, and we regard the vicissitudes of politics as just what they are, vicissitudes.
But isn't it a little bit more than a vicissitude? to drop out of the European Union? I mean, is the
No,
European
I'm not suggesting it isn't a good deal. This country was enormously helped when we put all the colonies together. If we had internal tariffs against each little colony, the United States would not be as big as it is. So it's understandable why Europe wanted to get together. And in addition to the advantages they got from the free trade, they'd had a long history of having wars. And we all are sort of one big place trading with one another. It'll be safer. Those were very good ideas. I'm not quarreling with the basic ideas. On the other hand, if you have unlimited immigration from one country to another, that causes lots of strains. Look at Germany. Merkel brought in more immigration than her people she wanted. She was leading a parade and she looked back and nobody was following. So these very few people want unlimited immigration of a different culture. We made it work in America, but we had a vacant continent to work on. It was easy. Vacant and rich, oil, minerals, wonderful soil.
Should we still be letting immigrants into this country?
I think we should have way more control of our borders than we do.
Isn't that
Donald
different
Trump
from-
is right on that, and I think the Democrats are committing suicide by being so. They hate him.
It seems like the borders is conflated with immigration policy sometimes, though, right? I mean, in other
Well,
words,
of course they are.
Yeah.
But I think we ought to have some control over immigration, some effective control. I think the bulk of the people want to be very nice to the people that are already here, including all the people from Latin America, but they want more control over the inflows.
Are you concerned about this rise of somewhat nationalistic leadership around the world, like in Turkey, in Brazil, in China, in the United States, arguably?
Well, take Brazil. Who in the hell would like Brazil? It's a great climate and a great country, but they're screwing it up to fairly well.
You mean the new leader or just what's happened previously?
What's happened generally.
Yeah. Okay. So does that require a strong man to take over, though?
Well, I don't think I've got deep knowledge on exactly what works well in the internal politics of every other country. Who would have guessed that the Chinese communists would improve their big country as much as they have in the last 30 years?
That surprised you?
Well, they didn't. The first 20 years, they had the Cultural Revolution. It was crazy. And now they have one of the greatest success records in the history of mankind. I don't know about you, but I did not predict it.
I didn't. But what? So what is the secret to China's success then?
They copied Singapore.
Which
you
is?
Remember, the communist leader said, I don't care if the cat is black or white, I care whether it catches mice. And they copied a very wonderful, famous Chinese man in Singapore. And lo and behold, they found the right Chinese leadership outside of China, which amuses me. Now, he was Chinese. But look at the way it worked. In the whole history of the world, no nation that big has ever advanced that fast. And they did it by having a bunch of poor people save half their income. They did not use the wealth of the rich world to get ahead. They used the savings of poor people. I am a huge admirer of what the Chinese have accomplished. And if you ask me who is the one man who did the most for China, it was Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. They copied him.
Are you still sanguine about the future for China right now? There's a lot of concerns about slowing growth and leverage in the system.
I'm quite optimistic. They've been succeeding for a long time. Sure, they have ups and downs, and they make mistakes as well as good decisions. But if you average them out, the Chinese are getting ahead. They're not moving backward.
What do you think the economic relationship between China and the United States looks like, say, 2 years from now?
Well, if both sides have any sense, they will be better and better friends and adjust all differences. It is stark raving madness on either side not to make a friend of the other really powerful nation on earth.
I want to ask you a little bit about some Silicon Valley stuff. I mean, you said yesterday you were ashamed of missing on Google.
Yeah, I am. We could see, if we looked carefully at our own companies, that their advertising was working way better than other advertising. Just we weren't paying enough attention.
So is it too late?
I don't know. I don't know everything, you know.
Well, we'll leave that aside. But, you know, you look at these tech investments. So they're Apple, now Amazon. Did you know about the Amazon purchase? Were you involved in that decision?
No, of course not. I've never owned a share of Amazon. I am a huge admirer of Bezos. I think he's been sort of like Lee Kuan Yew. He's a leader that's all by himself. He's been just a perfectly amazing human leader. But it's always been too complicated and uncertain for my particular temperament.
It's interesting.
And I find other things to do that work fine.
Someone was telling me the other day that they thought that you could actually sort of think of Apple and Amazon not as technology companies so much, but as big branded growth businesses, which would be something that would be appealing to you.
Well, I think they're both
right
brands and technologies, and it's hard to separate the effect of one from the other.
Okay. And as far as what's going on in Silicon Valley right now with IPOs, unicorns going public and not having any profitability or any prospect of profitability in the near term, what do you think of that situation?
Well, there are a whole lot of things I don't think about. And one of them is companies that are losing $2 or $3 billion a year and going public. It's not my scene.
Have you looked, so you're not interested in Uber or companies like that necessarily?
Well, I have to be interested when they're that important and sweep the world and change practice. But I don't have to invest in everything I'm interested in. I'm looking for things where I think I can predict what's going to happen with a high degree of accuracy. And I have no feeling that I have the ability to do that with Uber.
Right. I want to ask you about architecture, which is something you've been interested in for a while. How did you get interested in that, and what is your current
well, I had
situation
an uncle who was an architect, and I've always thought it was the queen of the arts. In other words, I think architecture does more good than painting or sculpture. So I think architecture is hugely important, very interesting, and does such enormous good when it's done right. So I'm a big admirer of the potentiality of the profession. But I think a lot of people go into architecture because they're sort of frustrated sculptors, and they don't think with enough common sense or uncommon sense about what the hell they're doing.
What are some projects that you've been involved with, though?
Oh, I've built houses, I've built office buildings, I've built apartment houses. I've helped charities and educational institutions build things. I've built science centers. I do a lot of it. I like it.
Is this a creative outlet for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have some projects that you're working on right now, some architecture projects? What are they about?
Well, I'm working on projects at UCSB, University of California at Santa Barbara. And it's basically housing, but of several kinds.
I want to shift gears and ask you a little bit about repurchasing shares. You said in the shareholder meeting, I predict we'll get a little more liberal in repurchasing shares. How much more aggressive will you get? And do you think that's going to be a problem potentially with the Democrats?
Well, a politician that's in the business of howling about something, trying to create a sense of outrage, they're always complaining about something. And it is true that a lot of people, it got so popular to purchase shares that some people repurchased them even when they were too high priced. We will never do that. We're only going to buy them back if they're too cheap. But of course that ought to be done. If you had a partnership of 3 of your crippled relatives and one of them needed some money, wouldn't you buy out the crippled relative with the company's money? It's just simple morality. So, but I do think it's being overdone by some people, and it undoubtedly is being done to prop up values, which I regard as an improper use of the share repurchasing technique.
Should there be laws about that?
No. There are laws, but we shouldn't be telling people what the right price is.
Right. So I want to ask you a little bit about the social safety net we were talking about and Medicare. And do you support Medicare for all? Would that be something you'd be interested in?
Well, I'm one of the few Republicans you'll ever talk to that thinks we should have a single-payer system, but not one of the type that we're going to get. If you look at the single-payer system of Singapore, it costs 20% of what ours cost, and that's an advanced, civilized, high-income nation. And of course, the people are a lot healthier. Well, of course, I'd rather spend 80% less and have the people healthier. And of course, I'd like to have American manufacturers not have this terrible burden of unnecessary health costs that affects their competitiveness in the world. So we have an insane medical system that grew like Topsy by accident with the help of a lot of dumb governmental intervention. Not all of it was dumb, but some of it was. And the system is ridiculous. If a young family has to pay a $5,000 deductible to have a baby, they don't really have medical insurance. It isn't just the Medicare that's wrong. The whole damn system is going wrong. And the amount of unnecessary tests and unnecessary prolongation of inevitable death that's going on is a national disgrace. Of course I don't like it.
Have you ever thought about moving to Singapore, Charlie?
Well, no, but I'd like to move some of Singapore's results into the United States. They have practically no deaths from opioids. They have a low crime rate. They have no debt of the whole country. No, they're doing a lot right. I wish to hell our politicians in both parties would spend a lot more time studying Singapore.
But some people say, many people say, it's an authoritarian government. There's a lack of freedom there.
It's a democracy. It just does such a good job that people keep reelecting it. I like that result. What the hell's wrong with that?
I was with some people just a few minutes ago, actually, and they were kind of recounting some of your zingers. Do you spend time before the meeting, say, oh, I've got like these 6 zingers I'm going to get out during the annual meeting?
Never. Think of all the people you know that have tried to take one extra step and have fallen off a cliff.
Well, on that happy note, we will conclude the meeting.
That's just come to you?
Yes. I think the meetings work better if they're spontaneous. If we were scripting things, I don't think people would like it.
So you and Warren don't say anything at all before you sit down there?
0.
You have no idea what's going to happen?
That is correct.
That's fantastic. So I want to ask you just a question or two about growing up. And you were at the University of Michigan, and you dropped out and joined the Army, right?
I certainly did.
And
we all did in those days.
Yeah, so how did the Army influence you?
Well, everything influences you in your past life. And yes, of course it influenced me. I never wanted to be in a big bureaucracy. I was well toward the bottom. I finally got to be a 2nd lieutenant in the Army. I was way down in the ranks, and nobody gave a damn what I thought about any subject. They just gave me a little job to do, and I was supposed to do it. And of course I didn't like that as well as having a freer rein to control my own destiny and so on. So I am much better adapted to being a capitalist operator than I am to being a cog in a bureaucracy.
Did you ever get in trouble in the Army?
Of course.
Tell us about that.
Well, my senior officers could tell I thought they were wrong. And I tried to hide it, and they could still tell. And so, of course, I never got in any serious trouble, but who in the hell likes a junior officer? You look over there, and he's plainly indicating he thinks you're an idiot.
So that didn't work out too well.
Well, it worked out all right. I did my work well enough so they didn't bother me. But it was not a milieu where I was going to succeed.
Right. So how did you figure out? A lot of people look at your life and would want to emulate what you've done. Is that something that people can do? Look at someone like yourself and see your path. I mean, you're in real estate law, then investing. What do you even consider yourself? A businessman? How would you describe what you do?
Well, I don't consider myself I think my way of thinking will work for anybody, of trying to be very rational and disciplined. So I think that much. But to flit around to various careers and go into the other fellow's professional territory and try and outdo him and do all kinds of things like that, I think will not work for most people. And so I always I'm always being visited by young men who say, I'm practicing law and I don't like it. I'd rather be a billionaire. How can I do it? And I tell them, well, I'll tell you a story. A young man goes to see Mozart. And he says, Mozart, I want to start composing symphonies. And Mozart said, how old are you? And the guy says, 22. And he says, you're too young to do symphonies. And the guy says, yes, but you were 10 years old when you were composing symphonies. And Mozart says, yes, but I wasn't running around asking other people how to do it.
Right.
So I think this flitting around business is something not everybody should try.
Yeah, I think
I think if I tried it again, it might not have worked as well.
You said just figure out how
I may
to
have
do
been
something
quite
and do
lucky.
it. Why were you were lucky?
Yeah, I think I had some luck, yes.
Well, but I think there's more to it than that. I mean, where were you looking?
Yes, the combination of luck and skill. That's what all good records are.
Right. So let me just ask you a few more questions. And do you eat all that peanut brittle up there, right?
Yeah.
Is that your one peanut brittle day, or do you eat
Yeah, it
peanut
is.
brittle? Really?
Yeah, it is.
So the other 364 days, you don't eat much of it.
They put it there. I think Warren is so businesslike. He likes promoting peanut brittle at the annual meeting.
Well, don't the other Berkshire brands get jealous and say, why don't you put like a railroad train up there or something like that?
We got a whole exhibit hall full of other brands promoting one another at the Berkshire meeting. You cannot claim that we're under promoting.
I would never claim that. But you know, the Coke people and the Seas people get special placement up there.
Yes, they do, but